and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Kurtz County, hey, Coos Bay, Bandon, Oregon, and beyond. I want to thank you all for joining me. I got some great guests, and I'm going to go straight to Matt Holman from 3H Tree Service. Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah, Rob, how are you?
I'm doing pretty damn good. I just so you folks know, I got him on the phone, and we're getting ready to play Where's 3H Tree Service. So, Matt, tell us what's going on today.
It's awful. I'm so tired of winter, Rob. Can we talk to somebody about this? The rain is killing us, but we're out here working in it. So, yeah, we did a pretty big hedge job in Airport Heights, and we're out here now going to do some trees for a friend.
Well, that's good. That's good. I saw some of your latest videos, and you were talking about your bucket trucks. You got some badass bucket trucks there.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. We got them locally and for a pretty good price, and helps keep our overhead down. You know, we can use them, and it just makes it safer for everybody. And you know, certain projects, you know, it makes a better product at the end too. You know, you can get to spots that you wouldn't be able to get climbing, and it's a lot easier for everybody.
How high do they go?
We've got one that's a 60-foot truck, and then our little one's like 37, 38 feet, something like that. So where the little truck comes in handy is driveways. A lot of these rural driveways get grown in, and if a guy had to climb every tree down the driveway, it would take forever. But if we can just pull in with the bucket truck and the chipper and prune everything up real nice and get you some room. We run into that with like FedEx and UPS trucks don't like to deliver packages because the driveways are too grown in. So if you're an Amazon person or whatever and need that stuff delivered and you're having troubles with your driveway, we could sure hook you up.
You know, I bet that helps, like with gorse, you know, with all those stickers. Does that help you out because you don't have to go into those suckers?
If you call me for a gorse job, I'm going to tell you no. We don't do gorse.
Okay,
we don't have a whole lot of it up here. You guys can keep it in Bandon.
I don't know who the hell brought it into this town, but we got a crap load of gorse up here.
Lord Bennett, I heard.
Yeah, Lord Bennett, I heard. He's got a restaurant named after him. Yeah, maybe we should go protest or something. Yep. I don't know. So I got it up that 3H Tree Service. We have Where's 3H Tree Service has started round one. I want to go over the rules real quick. The grand prize today is $50. Let's see. The playing area covers all of Coos County. We'll give you some clues. There will only be one winner per round. The round ends when we have a winner, and when announced on the Rob Taylor Report podcast, people who are ineligible to win the prize today include family and employees of 3H Tree Service, anyone involved with hiring or contracting with 3H Tree Service, anyone who is a known criminal in Coos County or Oregon, and let's see, anyone who has won a round of Where's 3H Tree Service in the last 30 days. So the round has started, and I want to remind you all, guys, that 3H Tree Service is the only tree service in Coos County that has an arborist license from the Oregon Landscape Contractors Board. And you want to give out any clues or anything?
Well, I'll tell you where we're at now. We're on Stage Road in Hauser, if anybody wants to come travel that long road and find us. And then I don't know how long we're going to be here, probably an hour and a half, and then we'll be heading back into town. So follow the comments on Rumble, and I'll keep you guys posted as to where we're headed.
All right, I appreciate it. Just text me if you got anything to let me know.
Okay, we'll do, Rob. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
You know, that's what happens when you forget to send out the link to the guy who's playing 3H tree service. So I'll remember that next time. But I got some really good guests. I've got Marty Kurtz on the line, and Diane Rich. Boy, I'm really screwing up your day today, Marty. Your name today.
Well, I've heard worse variations on my last name, so I'm just peachy with that because it's not super derogatory.
That's
Hi,
good.
Marty. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Diane.
I got Diane Rich. How you doing,
Yeah,
Diane?
Very good. Thank you for having us on today.
Not
Yeah,
too bad, Marty.
The last time the three of us got together, we got kicked off a radio station. So let's see if we can get kicked off a Rumble today, huh?
We're just
That would
trouble.
be-
What can we say? We're just trouble. We get together.
That would be
cause a little
badass.
trouble.
If we got kicked off a Rumble, I think that would make the news. That would be something if we could get kicked off a Rumble. I'll have to think about that one.
That's difficult, you know? We could try.
We can try. We can try. So the reason I wanted you guys to be on here is I just wanted to talk about the atmosphere before going into the primary. We've got the Republican Party they're having a lot of infighting, and they're circling the wagons, and they're supporting their incumbents because they're afraid of losing the few seats that they have gained. And then you have the Democrats who are worried because they are afraid that they're going to lose seats to the Republicans in some of those contested areas. I'll give you an example of those contested areas. Let's see. There's Anessa Hartman in District 40, Emerson Levi in District 53, and Hoy Nugent in District 48, and they just won narrowly in 2022. And so this is Oregon City, Bend, and Southeast Portland. And so they're worried. They're a little bit worried that we might actually be able to take those seats because we did gain 2 seats in 2022. We gained the Mannix won 1, and Tracy Kramer won 1, both of them from Marion County. So there's a lot of things going on in the election right now, and I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. Diane, have you been keeping up with this?
Well, last time Ho only won by 400 votes over John Masterman. So this is way close, and the Democrats are going to throw money at this race. I think that he's a great candidate. He does the walk. He goes out and does things and meets with the people. So I think that there's a good opportunity for him to take this district.
Wow, that was pretty good. Thank you for that. I wasn't sure if you had that stuff because I think all 3 of these, from what I'm seeing here and from what I remember, all of them just lost by just less than 1,000 votes. I think one of them was like 400 votes apart.
Yeah,
That's nothing.
if you look at it as one brochure, if they had one more poster, one brochure, one more sign out there, it can make the difference. I mean, 400 votes is not very much in a district that's sizable. Those are all Portland districts. So, just carve them out. And
that says a lot, don't you think, that the fact that it is a Portland district that's just so close on that?
Right. And I think that things are turning around. People in Portland can't stand it anymore. The homelessness, the lawlessness, taking a beautiful city like Portland and turning it into a dump is not what any of us wanted. So I think that there's going to be a lot of seats that are going to flip. And I think that within the Republican Party, there's going to be a few seats that flip as well. And one of the seats that we want to flip is Don Powers as the chairman for the Republican Party. And this is coming up.
Committee person.
Mm-hmm. Committee person. Absolutely. Right. He's got quite a following, great ideas. He's not looking at the 1960s playbook. He's going forward. And this is something the Republican Party needs desperately. New ideas,
Yep.
new technology. We need to be able to compete. We can't keep playing in this old field.
In fact, now that I'm off the radio, I feel like I've advanced by a couple of decades now that I'm on the internet. And my son was telling me for years to get off the radio because it's a dying industry, and that I need to get onto the internet because that would open me up to a whole new range of an audience. And I'll tell you, I love it. I like it here. And I think it gives me opportunities to be more mobile than when I was on the radio, because I can go on anytime I want. I can go as long as I want. I can cut it as short as I want. And like I was telling Marty, I get to cuss.
And that's an important advantage to you, Rob. We know that about you.
Yes.
So, the Republican Party here in Coos County has done things that don't make any sense. I mean, you
Right.
can't tell people they can't even come to their own meetings. And these meetings are so dull and boring. Danessa actually takes me to dinner first to
Right.
talk me into attending. And now they want to close the doors and not let anybody know anything about the candidates like it's some big deal. It's just sad. I look at it and I say, this is a child holding on to a ball, and he doesn't want anybody to know that his candidate is dirty. We've
Yeah.
dishonored DBS. We know what's happened there. He's taken $150,000 from a Republican, or excuse me, from a Democrat, be okay if it was a Republican, in San Francisco.
Well,
He
it wouldn't be
exceeded the
okay.
Constitution by 7%. He overbought. He's taken too many donations out of his district. This is the Constitution of Oregon. This is not to be messed with.
Right.
So let's move on, though. The hope of the Republican Party is to get rid of Solomon Yu, and move on with new leadership that's going to actually bring people in rather than excluding. And I think that's what the whole Republican Party has been doing right now, is instead of looking at the truth, anything anybody does, if they've got an R behind their name, let them just, protect them. That doesn't work for regular people. We expect morals and integrity.
It's
And
funny
we're just
you're
not seeing that.
the three of us are here together, and I think the last time I went to a meeting, boy, my camera froze up again. The last time I went to a meeting is we were where all three of us were there was at Danessa's building in Myrtle Point, and Marty was there, you were there, and it was probably the largest meeting I have seen them have in quite a while. And so, I'm just surprised that that more people aren't upset with the party, the local party, that it's not going the way it should be going. And it's very disappointing that people aren't standing up to this chair, who is, for lack of a better term, is really driving the party into a ground. He's just grounding the party. And Marty, you've been a part of this for a while. What do you think of this? You've seen some of this.
Well, I mean, I'm thoroughly disgusted by how the way that the Coos County Republican Party is being run, especially when they say, well, we're going to have a meeting, but the only people we're going to allow into the meeting are going to be PCPs, and we're going to have it at a super secret location. And if anybody shows up, we're going to have bouncers at the door to make sure that only the right people get in. And I'm like going, wow, talk about being inclusive. Way to bring people into the fold. I mean, I can see why everybody's clamoring to get into the Republican Party, because one, they don't want anybody to talk about anything unless it's approved. And I'm going, well, can you sound more like a Democrat if you tried? I mean, that's just horrific that they're using the same kind of tactics you expect from leftists and liberals and Democrats, where it's like, you are not allowed to say anything, that's against, the people that we are backing. And it's like, well, we're not saying anything bad. We're just asking questions, and we want to, some of these questions probably could have been answered in a very, in a very easy way, and just say, oh yeah, you misinterpreted that data. This is why it's, But no, it was I'm not going to answer that question. And not only that, but I'm going to hound you into the ground. I'm going to get you thrown off the air. I'm going to destroy your business. I'm going to go after your friends. And I'm like going, well, Sieg frickin' Heil here, man. I mean, snap your click your heels and do a snappy salute.
Click in the heels, Marty. Click in the heels.
And, and I'm looking at, every month, the Coos County Elections Office runs a district voter count.
Right.
And they put it up on their webpage. And it basically shows how many people are registered in the county at the current time. And in the last one that came out on March 1st, we've got 11,200 Democrats, 15,600 Republicans, and 19,780 NAVs. And don't you think that a lot of the NAVs are probably people that would be Republican if the Republican Party in Coos County was just not such a horrendous pile of steaming, we'll say excrement, because I'm sorry, I've worked in radio for so long, it's hard for me to swear, but it's just a horrendous thing when it's like, like I said previously, it's like they're not being inclusive, they're being exclusive. And if you dare say anything bad about any of their candidates or anything about them, they want to shut you out. And I'm like going, well, that's got to be the worst campaign for please join our party I've heard in my life.
I think that there are people in both parties, the Republican and the Democrat Party, who are so sick and tired of parties. They really are. And, when you see the Republicans playing these games, it's easy to see why they lose. It's obvious how they lose. You have to actually be a party. It's a party at the very last of the name. It's supposed to be fun. And you're supposed to be like-minded, not exclusive. And when there is a problem, why don't you get the moral value? We meet at a church, and yet there's no moral value. Oh, he can do anything he wants because he's got an R behind his name. Wait a second, that doesn't compute in my book. And I don't think others think it's okay either. There gets to be a point where you have to have quality people that represent you. You cannot have people who lie, cheat, and are not transparent represent you. Or we get what we've got in Oregon right now, which is Crazyville. We've got to change things, guys. We've got to do better.
I agree. And now I can't hear Rob at all.
I can't hear Rob either.
Well, I guess we've taken over the show. So
You
thanks for
taken
joining
over the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining the Rob Taylor Report.
Don't worry, Marty's good.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for joining the Rob Taylor Report. Rob can't meet us right now, so.
After I figured out how to work the mic button here, Marty, I was saying that you were on the show where, we had let you off. We had put David Brock Smith on. It was the show that got me canceled from the radio station. You were in radio. You owned some radio stations. Let me ask you, if I would have been on one of your radio stations and I would have done that interview, which could have been a lot better. Believe me, it could have been a lot better. But at this point, I think it was perfect. But it could have been a little better, maybe. What would you have done as the owner of a station listening to that interview?
Well, first off, I'm a little dubious that the owner of Bicoastal Media actually heard that broadcast until David Brock Smith brought it up, because he owns 51 stations all up and down the West Coast. What's the odds of him actually listening in to that show at that time and hearing that? I mean, and DBS was on in the last hour, and he didn't even say he was going to be on the air until like 10 minutes beforehand when he called, long-suffering Bill, your producer, and basically said, put me on the air, and was cursing out Bill. And I'm like going, wow, talk about volatile. And, and you had to remove me from the broadcast because you can only have one call in at a time at the, super high-tech studios of KWRO. So, but if
Right.
it was a station I was running and I heard that, I would essentially, I had a situation like that at one of the stations I ran in South Lake Tahoe, where I had a morning jock say something not quite right on the air. And, and all of a sudden we had all these people showing up, and there was like the women's league of against profanity, or the women's league against blah, blah, blah. And we're going to boycott all your advertisers, and we're going to, petition and I basically went to the guy and I said, hey, let me listen to it. Let me see what I think. Cause I wasn't listening to the morning show. So I listened to it and I'm like I thought it was funny as heck. I mean, inappropriate, but funny as heck. And as far as people protesting us, screw them. I mean, it's, that's, if you knuckle under to everybody that says, I'm going to boycott your advertisers, and I'm going to do this and that and the other thing, if you take a knee, if you knuckle under, they're going to keep doing it. The only way you can win is you can just say, well, thanks for your feedback, but I don't think he's done anything wrong. And, thanks for calling. Bye. And, and to give you a background on it, what happened was somebody was on top of a casino. They were threatening to jump off the casino, and it stopped traffic all the way through State Line, Nevada and South Lake Tahoe. And so he got on the air and said, hey, traffic alert, if don't drive on these streets, don't drive on these roads. We've got a jumper on top of the Horizon Casino, and, we'll keep you up to date on when the traffic, loosens up, and we'll be back right after this song. Well, the next song he played was Jump by Van Halen, which I'm like going, okay, that's funny, but super inappropriate.
No.
Yeah, but did I fire him? No. Did I admonish him? Yeah, a little bit. But at the same time, I'm like going, and he basically, as soon as that was over, he got on the air and he said, hey, I'm sorry. And I was like going, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you apologized on the air, you apologized, repeatedly. And as far as I'm concerned, that's good enough for me. Keep doing the work you're doing, and, carry on, to use your terminology.
So I was watching TV in Albuquerque one time. This is because it reminds me of this story. And they were playing they had a special. It was a special show that they had on at the time, talking about suicides. And one of the stories was about people hanging themselves. And after the show, the next movie that came on was Hang 'em High with Clint Eastwood. And I'm watching that going, wow, I wonder if the people who programmed this really caught on to what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of times when that's just coincidental. I'm sure, nobody checked and said, hey, what's the next show up, coming up? Oh, yeah, we should probably put a disclaimer on the bottom of the screen or something here. But
trigger warning before there even was trigger warnings. So
yeah, I mean, and to go back into the the guy that owns Bicoastal Media, I mean, I sent him a letter. He sent me, he responded to David Brock Smith, who sent out the letter, his 18-page diatribe about he's done nothing wrong, and how you are such a horrible, horrible person, and so is Diane, and then he had a snippet of a letter from the owner of Bicoastal, and the guy from Bicoastal called Tuttle, and I'm like, oh well, first off, how would the owner of Bicoastal Media even know who Tim Tuttle is, or Tom
Right.
Tuttle, or and it is just Brock Smith, he said that Brock Smith didn't contact him, but I'm like going, well, first off, how was it that you knew that there was something controversial in the show the next morning? How is it that you're already talking to David Brock Smith and apologizing unless he contacted you? And the same thing with Tuttle. It's like, how did he know to contact Tuttle? And I'm like going, okay, so anything that David Brock Smith has to say about, oh, I had nothing to do with this, well, it's just hokum. I mean, to put it nicely.
It kind of reminds me of him when he was running for commissioner, and he says that he's bringing in windmills because it's such a wonderful idea to bring windmills on our coast. And then he writes HB 3375 that brings windmills to our coast. And then now he's like, oh, no, I don't want windmills. No. Well, guess what? if windmills come, it's DBS that's involved. He is 100% complicit.
Well, and what I find super surprising is don't any of these people realize that the internet is forever, and you can't, I mean, it's not like the old days where it was only broadcast TV, broadcast radio, and newspapers that were disseminating information. So
Right.
you could say, oh, you could say, I never supported windmills. And it's like, well, here, I got a video of you, like, proudly introducing it in the house. What do you mean you did? I'm sorry, but we've got you in a bald-faced lie. Did you not understand the internet is forever, and these videos and articles will come back to haunt you because they don't go away? Back in the days when you had to go to the newspaper archives and dig up articles, it was a lot harder. But now it's like, yeah, let me go to the Wayback Machine. Hey, what do you know? He's lying.
So, things really changed after we had that interview with David Brock Smith for Rob and myself. All of my advertisers were contacted, and, it's just too much hassle. It just became to be too much hassle to do the newsletter. And it's very interesting how things just happen, right? Rob starts his podcast and he's doing quite well, and he's on more often, much more relevant, doing a great job.
Thank
I
you.
was contacted by a mystery man who basically wanted somebody to come in and make some changes, shake things up. And he was very interested in the fact that we did not shy away from bringing the truth to light. And when it came to light, we didn't stop and we didn't say, hey, we made a mistake, let's do a retraction. He didn't do anything wrong. We stood up even harder and said, no, he did this. Well, this gentleman came in, and he's very interested in assisting the Republicans in changing the game plan, doing things right, funding them, putting together a super PAC, and all of these things are going to come out at the convention. So I would recommend that the Republican Party is going to have a real shakeup, and it's all going to be good, guys. I mean, it's all going to be good. We are at the precipice of total change. It's not a situation where things can work the old ways. They haven't worked for years. We need new leadership, and Don Powers is going to provide that for us. And I back him 100%. What do you think, Rob?
I completely back him 100%. I endorse Don Powers. I've worked with him over the last 15 years on many different projects. And I can tell you right now, he's the man for the job. And whether you like or agree with what people say about Solomon Yu or not, I think that it's time for a change. I think it's time for these people to go. And Don Powers is the person to do it. And, we were just talking about how the party has tried to, silence some people. It was funny that Angela Plowhead, I think is her name. She sent out that letter. Did you see that letter where she's telling people obey Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment and do not criticize fellow Republicans? Well, let me show you what some of the things that were said about Don Powers. Don had put this mannequin in the back of his truck. This is his rodeo mannequin. This is what he puts on horses when he's training horses. And one of the Solomon Yu people put out there that Don Powers was racist, and that this was an effigy of Solomon Yu, which couldn't hardly be any less of the truth, because if you look at this thing up close, it's got blue eyes. It doesn't look Asian. You know what I mean? And all he did was using this as a way to show that there was a recall against Solomon Yu a couple of months ago, which he just barely survived. And so I thought it was funny that they were doing this letter out there saying, we can't talk bad about other Republicans. And they used that Reagan's 11th commandment as a sword against people like you and me, Diane, because that's exactly what Rod Schilling did. He put out that news that email for the next party meeting a couple of months ago, saying that we shouldn't be able to criticize each other, which is ridiculous. And that's kind of why you and I now are joining together we're going to create a couple of PACs. We're going to create a super PAC. And this hasn't happened yet. This is all, we're planning it out because we want to do it right. We're not going to say much about it. We've got some really good people who are backing us. And we're not going to say much about those people because we don't want people to know who they are right now. Maybe later down the road, but right now, this is kind of a mystery. It's kind of a mystery that we're going to live. And so these people saw what they did to me and Diane, and they said, we want you guys on this team to campaign parallel with the Republican Party. We're kind of like patriot Republicans because the party is trying to shut us out and the party are making bad mistakes. So we're going to campaign and a parallel to the party, and we're going to try to get candidates who know the layout of the field. We're going to coach them. We're going to help try to fund them. And all of this is going to be helping better the state of Oregon because we're going to have better candidates.
And who's a Republican, Rob Taylor?
I am.
That's right. How about that?
I'm now
you know,
a
when you
registered
mess with
Republican.
somebody, they come back fighting. And this is
That's
what
right.
Rod Schilling bought. Okay, this is what DBS bought. We are now going to vet every candidate. We're going to watch what they do. We're going to fund them. We're going to take care of things and do things right. We no longer feel that it's safe. If you can put a candidate in who takes $150,000 from the Democrats and think that's okay, guess what? There are people out there that say no, and they're willing to stand up and spend their time and their money to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen in Oregon, and we don't get tampons in the boys' bathrooms and lies at our meetings. I'll never forget Rod Schilling saying, everybody, you need to pray for David Brock Smith because of the walkout. He might lose his position and not be able to run again. He actually said that in a meeting, and I'm thinking, did he walk out? And then I go back and I check it, and of course he didn't walk out. In fact, he didn't even vote. He didn't vote no. The guy ran from the building.
Right.
This man does not represent me. I hope he does not represent you. I hope that when you go in, you will vote for someone like Todd Vaughn.
Right.
A logger, a timber person, grew up in Oregon, knows the lay of the land, and isn't in bed with China. How about that for a deal? Good
Amazing.
idea, I think.
Yeah, all of those things sound very positive. I mean, it's just, it's much better than for me, the one thing that always sticks to my craw is vote yes or vote no, but don't be absent and don't vote present, because what in the hell are you doing there? I've got some issues with the Board of Commissioners in Coos County, which we may talk about later, but I mean, it's like vote yes or vote no, but don't hide under the desk.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're denying a quorum, which I want to explain what Diane was saying, is that David Brock Smith stayed in session while those 10 other senators had walked out, and 8 of them were Republicans, 2 of them were independents, and David Brock Smith, Dick Anderson stayed in session. And I know David Brock Smith says that this was part of a deal that he made with the Senate caucus. However, no one bothered to tell the other senators that that was part of the deal, because I've talked to them and none of them know about this deal. This is the only lives in David Brock Smith's head, of course. And the only time he did leave and had an unexcused absence, I believe it was unexcused, was the day that Tim Knopp, Finley, and Anderson gave the Democrats a quorum by all 3 of them showing up, and that's when HB 2005 passed, which was the gun bill, 2002, which was the child mutilation bill. Both of those bills passed, and David wasn't there to vote against it, and he did it because he didn't want to be accused of giving them a quorum.
Yeah, I mean, and to amend what I said earlier, I mean, it's like, yeah, I actually salute the people that walked out knowing there were certain dangers in doing so, because it basically says, at least I'm standing up for you. By leaving this chamber and denying a quorum, I am trying to make sure that the supermajority people that don't really care about you, and let's be absolutely certain here, we know that they don't care one whit about any of us. They're not
Right.
there to represent anybody. They're there to push through their, skewed idea of what life should be, what life should be like. Take all our lands away, take our property away, demand that we like put up with all these bent out of shape lifestyles. And it's like, well, at least when they walked out, they're at least trying to, stop this
Right.
insanity.
I
And so-
completely respect all of them.
So
Absolutely.
when I
They're
say
heroes.
when I say don't be absent and don't show up, well, I got to amend what I said and say, in this case, it makes sense.
And I completely understood you, and I understood what Diane was saying. I just wanted to be clear so that nobody would use it against us down the road. You know how that goes.
That's right.
One of the things that I've always had a problem with the Republican Party is that we've had really good candidates. Terry Greer was a good candidate, and when she was running, the party got behind her finally. The state party, the state PACs got behind her, and they watered her down. They watered her down so much she didn't sound any different than the Democrat that she was running against. And the Democrats used it against her in many different commercials. And that's what they do to these candidates. And we keep telling them if we wanted to vote for moderates or leftists, we would just vote for the damn Democrats or the Green Party if they're in there. But they need to have candidates who are willing to pull the conservative line and who's willing and proud to say they pull the conservative line, because it's just horrible what they do to candidates when they get hold of them.
Well, we hope with Don Powers at the lead that this may change. There's always hope for that, right? And I
Right.
do believe that we need to teach, in addition to just teaching people how to give a good speech or going to the right meetings, they need to learn how the government actually is supposed to work. And
Right.
everyone that we work with will be working with the Patriot Academy, taking courses on how the government is supposed to work. Because, once they get into office, it seems like the lobbyists come along and, they get their hands and their fingernails into them, and then they don't do things right. And maybe they never learned how the system is supposed to work in the first place. So hopefully this will help a lot. And, having a system and duplicating success is required in business, right? Every
Right.
business does that. Why doesn't the Republican Party have any clue how to do that?
Actually, you recommended that to Rod Schilling. You gave them an outline of what they should be doing as far as moving forward. And it's kind of like what we're doing now with the action items that we're taking with the PACs and the LLC and stuff. And we're going to literally train the candidates what the process is up in the legislature. But first, we're going to show you how to fill out the paperwork. We're going to show you how to do commercials. This is very important because a lot of them don't know any of this stuff, because we want regular Joes. We want people like Todd Vaughn. We want people who've been working in the field, not people with soft hands and big round bellies like David Brock Smith. He's got really soft hands. He's a girly man, and he likes it up there rubbing elbows. And we want someone who doesn't want to rub elbows with these fat cat bureaucrats. See, we want people up there who are going to fight, but a lot of them, because they've never been in politics, doesn't know the process of going through and submitting a voter's pamphlet, and putting items in the voter's pamphlet. They don't know the forms that they need to do. They don't even know how to form a political action committee. And I guess that's what you're going to help, and I'm going to help them do, right, Diane?
Right. When you look at running for office, I ran for clerk. And when I started running for clerk, the Republican Party gave me no money. The Republican Party gave me no advice. You go to the website, you do it all alone. They held meet and greets where 3 people would show up, and there were 3 candidates there. Ill-advised, ill marketing, nothing planned out, no intentional candidate search ever. when you know that you have a specific position that needs to be replaced, why don't you start 2 years in advance looking for somebody that can fill that position and actually doing it intentionally, not waiting until a month before, the election and hoping somebody signs up, because that doesn't work. The Democrats don't do it that way. And if you absolutely fail every time you try, why don't you resign?
Right.
Right? I mean, why don't you resign? There's no hope for a person that can only bring 20 people to a meeting.
And the sad part is that David Brock Smith, when he went after me and he got me kicked off the radio, there was no replacement on that radio to promote Republican candidates. Like when we took over the North Bend School District, I don't want to blow my own horn, but a lot of that is due to me and the work I did. I had those candidates on the air. I gave them great interviews, and there were a lot of people who saw them. Rod Taylor accredits me and the radio show for getting him into office. I mean, he did a lot of work. I don't want to take anything from what he did as far as campaigning, but I was there, and that radio show was there to provide a platform for people to hear good conservative candidates. And I had been doing that for 5 years. And David Brock Smith, the man who claims to want to help the Republican Party, was the one who got me kicked off the air.
The biggest harm that could have been done, he did. The biggest harm that could have been done. And Rod Schilling stood by there and clapped and helped out too. Yeah. And the funny thing is that Michael Bernard got up and said, "Are you tired of winning?" when Carol Yardley took the seat on the North Bend school board. And I said, "You didn't do it. What are you talking about?" And Carol stood up and said, "The reason I won was because I worked with Diane."
And Diane, it's because you took her to the chamber meetings, you took her to
everywhere,
different events, and we made sure and got her signs. Mm-hmm. We made sure that the signs were saying the right thing on them, and we got those things placed, and almost no help from the Republican Party to get Carol Yardley into office. It's disgusting.
Oh yeah, we got radio ads too. So there you go.
And then when someone I was working with gave a donation, Rod got up in the meeting and gave the wrong name of the contributor. I had to correct him and say, "Listen, that guy just the name of the company is this. He didn't come in from the website. I work with him." I was so embarrassed. I mean, how can a guy go spend a nice donation to the Republican Party and have the chair not even have the intellect to remember the proper name of the business?
Right.
This is not acceptable. There needs to be a resignation letter. This is not acceptable.
Well, and the nice thing is, it's slowly but surely we are losing some of the useless tools in place. Rona McDaniels is stepping down. Mm-hmm. Solomon Yu, they've got, it seems like Don Powers has got his ducks in a row and may be able to replace him. And, the shill has got to go. I mean,
has got to go.
Yeah. I mean, if there's any hope for the Republican Party in Coos County, he has just got to go because
he's not helping anyone.
Yeah. He
brings nothing to the party, nothing.
Well, not only that, but he's, if he was bringing nothing, at least that's harmless. When he's going out of his way to insult people and exclude people, that's actually super damaging. I mean, if you're going to be ineffectual, please don't destroy stuff while you're doing it.
Yeah, completely agreed. And that's why
I have to mention one thing because it comes to mind. I'm sorry, Rob, excuse me.
Go for it.
Rob and I put together windmill protests, right? For Bowen. We went to 3 different windmill protests. And at those protests, we had more protesters than he has at his meetings. And we still pull a bigger draw than Rod Schilling's meetings do when we go down to protest. So it's
we're going to have more protesters. We're going to do some more. Yes, we are. And we're going to have that announced on here. We're going to get this on Facebook, but we're going to have more windmill protests. And there's a story coming up that we'll do here in a minute, but I want to continue on what we're talking about because I think it's important that people understand help is coming. And me and Diane are leading the charge on this. We're not doing this alone. We've got a lot of people behind the scenes who don't want to have their face in public. They know what kind of scrutiny they go through. They just want to help us out financially. They want to help us out through having the right contacts. And what we are going to do is we're going to put together a platform to fill the void that has been left by the Republicans who are not working on this. And I blame the local party here and I blame the state party for creating that void for really good candidates who need help, who need money, who need support, and they're completely AWOL, absent without leave, have no excuse for themselves. And Diane, I think this is going to be a great endeavor we're going on.
I'm so excited about this. I can't even stop. I mean, I'm working on it nonstop, and I love everything about it.
So one of the things that I did want to talk about, I got a news story that I think that it's kind of important that I want to put up here. And it has to do with the president. I don't know if you guys heard this, but the Supreme Court hands Trump a victory in Colorado's 14th Amendment ballot challenge. He got a 9-0 unanimous vote by the Supreme Court saying that he should be allowed to run in Colorado and pretty much all the other states who are trying to deny him access to the ballot. This is a huge, huge victory for Donald Trump. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. Marty, have you seen this yet?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. It's huge, I tell you. No, I thought it was really funny because, not only was it a 9-0 decision, basically what they said is states don't have the right to decide who goes on a federal election. Or actually, they didn't say that. They basically said this: the states don't have the right to interpret the constitutional amendment that they were trying to use to disqualify him. The 14th Amendment, I think it's, number 3. And, they said that's not for the states to choose. That's a federal thing. That's a Constitution thing. That's what the Supreme Court is for. So all you states that are trying to get him out on a 14th Amendment type of thing, go stuff yourself. And so, right. That was, basically a 9-0. There's no waffle there at all. They just said, you're violating the Constitution, knock it off.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny that the Secretary of State for Colorado, Jenna Griswold, basically said, how horrible that we can't take an insurrectionist off the ballot. And my response was, oh, well, you mean you wanted to get Biden off the ballot?
Yeah, good. Touche, sir. Touche. That was an incredible story. Yeah, Diane, you want to say anything on that?
I was concerned. I was really concerned because with Biden being in office, you just never know what can happen. And I'm really glad that this was taken care of in the way it was.
The greatest thing that Trump did while he was in office was to fill, I think it was over 400 vacant judge seats out there. And he went to the Heritage Foundation. He got their list for judges and he filled a lot of seats out there who are now stacked with good conservative judges because we don't have any really, really good conservatives except for Judge Stone. And he doesn't always get it right, but Judge Stone is about the only really good conservative. The rest of them, most of them have been appointed by the governor. And she's not going to put in a good conservative. She's going to put in a rabid leftist. And
well, what we have to look at when we look at our judges here is how many election integrity cases were brought to court in Oregon in 22. And how many of them got in front of a judge.
Marty, we were talking about this on Friday and you made a great comment about the local case that we had. In fact, Judge Stone ruled on that or decided on that case. And it was me and Todd Vaughn who were talking Friday and I happened to mention it. And your comment that you put in Rumble was excellent. I know you wanted to talk on this. Would you respond to what Diane said about the election integrity cases?
Well, yeah. What happened? You made some comment about Judge Stone and said, in context of that election integrity case that we brought up, it was Ron and myself. And Judge Stone basically ruled against us but he actually helped us out, because what happened is we had taken the county to court because, long story even longer, we tried to get ballot images for the 2020 election. They said, oh, that's going to be $9,300 to get copies of the ballot images, which we said, well, that's ridiculous. It's not like we're asking for paper copies. We're asking you to copy it from one computer disk to another. But anyway, they said $9,300. We said, no sale. So we said, okay, there were a huge amount of adjudicated ballots, normally adjudicated ballots, the ballots that have to be, that can't be counted by the machine and have to be counted by a person in the election office who has to look at the ballot and then decide what the election person, the elector's intent was. Normally it's about 3%. People make bad, write stuff on the ballots, don't fill it in correctly, use crayon, whatever. Usually it's about 3%. In this case, it was closer to 10%. And we said, why do you have 1,700 adjudicated ballots? So we said, okay, instead of getting all the ballots, we just want images of the adjudicated ballots. And they said, okay, fine, that'll be like $1,600. And we're like, well, that's kind of ridiculous, or no, $1,585, but that's still a ridiculous amount. But tell you what, we're going to pay it. So showed up, gave them a check, and they said, can't give you the images because the hard drive crashed. And we went, well, that's your problem, not my problem. You have to retain election information for 24 months. Therefore, you're going to have to rerun the election or rescan the ballots to get them back. And they said, no, we don't. I said, yes, you do. And so we went to the DA. The DA said, yeah, they do. And so they said, no, we don't. So we took them to court. We had to go to court a couple of different times. But finally, we got to the final trial date back in, like March or April of last year. And we got into court, and basically the elections office argued that given the same ballots, the same scanners, the same computers, the same software, they could not get the same result if they reran the election. And they said that in court, and it's been recorded. And I'm like, okay, well, that's really nice that you said that in court, and now we got it on, we got it on the record that you can't rerun the election and get the same result. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Just warm and fuzzy, Marty. Warm and fuzzy.
About election integrity. But the thing is then, they said, well, we can't rerun it to give you just the adjudicated ballots because, we can't get the same result. And it was funny because they were using screenshots from a running system to show how the system doesn't decide which ballots are adjudicated. It's something that they have to do, which is patently false, which means they'd have to look at every single ballot and go, well, the machine can read that one or it can't. No, they don't do that.
Right.
The machine tries to read them and then says, I don't know what this one says, and puts it over into a little thing called the adjudication queue. And then they can look on their web-based browser and go, oh, okay, I've got a bunch of things in the queue. Let me go look at it and fix them. So anyway, I tried to introduce evidence of pages from a clear ballot manual that I downloaded from the Colorado Secretary of State and said, what they've just said is incorrect, and here's my proof. And they said, you can't introduce that information because it is proprietary. And I went, how can it be proprietary if I downloaded it from the Colorado Secretary of State website? And unfortunately, the judge was like, okay, I guess it's proprietary if they say so. But I'm like, the one question, and this is the question that keeps me up at night sometimes, the one question I didn't ask the judge, I'm like, hold on, Judge, if if a page from a manual is proprietary, how is it that showing screenshots from a running system of the same software is not proprietary? And I'm like, and it didn't matter. So the judge ruled, said, okay, I'm not going to force you to rerun the election since you can't get the same result, but I'm going to ask you to scan all the ballots and give it to them. So we lost, but we won, because initially what we wanted was all the ballot images.
Right.
And so they said, we can't give you the adjudicated ballot images because we can't rerun the election and get the same result. So the judge said, well, just give them all of them. And they went, okay. So yeah, lost the case, but won the thing. And the judge was really great because we were doing this pro se, which means we didn't have a lawyer, but Coos County brought in a rental lawyer and had their lawyer and their counsel and their election person. But they wouldn't allow me to sit next to Ron and say, listen, I'm the guy with the technical skills. Let me answer these questions or ask questions. Because by the time, I will tell Ron what to say, and then he won't know what the follow-up question should be. And, so it basically took a long time, but we got an interesting result. And it would be really nifty if they gave me the ballot images like they said they would. But what they did is they now took like 2 months to have the Coos County co-counsel or, secondary counsel or whatever. It wasn't the main counsel, but it was somebody in the legal office, basically went through and redacted all the ballots to take out the ballot style and the precinct number because they said it would violate voter privacy issues. And I'm like going, hold on, that's a bunch of BS, because the only way, they were worried that if I could take the ballot style, which basically is, what ballot, for instance, let's say Coos County, or let's say a city has an election, but it's part of a precinct, but it might be multiple precincts. So you're going to have a different ballot style for each of those precincts. So you might have multiple ballot styles in one precinct. They were worried that I could take the ballot style information and the precinct ID information and reverse engineer it so that it would show who voted for what. And I'm like, that's impossible, because the smallest precinct we have in Coos County is 400 and change, precinct 18 where I live, or the smallest voting block is, I think, Powers, which is 500. So unless there was only 10 people that voted in Powers for one thing, there would be absolutely no way I could reverse engineer and figure out, who voted for what. But I mean, essentially, they were just coming up with an excuse to redact ballots. And now that I've been looking through all these images, it's like, well, they redacted other things as well. There are some places where the races are gone or the ovals are gone for various things. And I'm like, that's really going out of your way.
Right.
And I kind of set it aside and I said, I'm going to look at this at a later date. I've got the ballot image reading software and I've got the stuff that will allow me to figure out what ovals mean what and all that. But I've been working on all these advisory measures for the last couple of months. And so I just kind of set it aside and said, I'll do it later. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that was Judge Stone. And that was just essentially, I thought it was interesting that the judge went, let me make sure I got this clear. So you're saying you can't rerun the election and get the same result? And I said, yes.
Do you feel comfortable with that? Because I don't. I don't feel comfortable with that. If those scanners are so accurate and everything works really well, why can't we get the same results?
Yeah, and I'm not even worried about the scanners. I mean, it's like if the scanners are skewy or they don't get the right images, that's fine. That's what the scanning interpretation software on the Clear Ballot Scan server does. It looks at the ballots and says, I can figure this out or I can't. So even if the scanner is wonky, it'll turn out on the back end.
So Nunya Business just put a comment out there and he says, gee, isn't the entire purpose of an election investigation to determine if the result was legitimate? Why bother if the main concern is to ensure the same result?
Yeah, and the thing is we never, and at no point during this process did we say we thought there was anything wrong. We didn't say, we disagree with the results. We don't think this person won. We don't think this person lost, blah, blah, blah. No, we did none of that. And it's like I've been working with computers for 50 years and professionally for over 40. And it's like, I know how to hack systems. And I'm like, I'm all their assertions that these things can't be hacked and all that. It's like, well, they're saying that because they're told to say that. They don't actually know that. That's right. But all I wanted to do is I wanted to run these ballot images through my reading software and say, did we get the same result? Or did we get the same result within a reasonable percentage? Because, I write software that's not perfect either. So it'd be like, oh, maybe I got it wrong, but it's
Right.
okay. The whole idea is the fact that they fought us for a year and a half, almost 2 years, to deny us access to ballot images or try to charge us these, huge fees, just makes me more curious. I mean, why would you go so far out of your way to keep us away from this information? That's what made me
When
curious.
we look at our elections, we say every vote counts. But then when you can't run it back through and have it come up with the same count again, maybe every vote doesn't count.
Well, I mean, and their whole, if you look at any of their websites, they're like going, oh, it's free and it's fair and it's transparent. And I'm going, well, you must be using a definition of transparent that I have
Right.
never used before in my life.
Well, okay, I want to go back over a couple of points. Number one, the machines, and you know this because we have discussed this, the machine in the Coos County Clerk's office is actually connected to the internet, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It could be, it might not be. It's, the fact that they say, well, we don't have an Ethernet cable plugged into it means that we've got an air gap and therefore it's not connected to the internet. And I'm like going, well, the 3 Dell computers that you have installed here all have onboard chips that allow you to connect to the internet without a wire being present. You have Wi-Fi, you have cell modems, you have the V Pro chip on it, which is what Dell uses to be able to troubleshoot your computer from a distance. So even though they're saying it can't connect to the internet, I'm saying you don't have enough technical information to actually prove that to me. And if you won't let me look at the logs, I tried to look at the logs and they redacted them so much that it was like, it looks like these logs, I got the web activity log and the election activity logs, they redacted so much information out of it, either A, they turned off all logging from 3 days before the election until a week after, or they cut everything out, which means they didn't actually run an election, which I kind of doubt that.
Well,
But
how do they update the machines if it's not connected to the internet?
I asked them that question, and they said, oh, a clear ballot representative comes in on a regular basis and, physically updates the machines in person. And I'm like, okay, I'd love to see a log of that as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't pursue it. Well, the scanners that they have, the scanners are Wi-Fi hotspots. So they've got scanners connected to their internal network. Okay, they don't have the machines hooked up to, to an Ethernet cable, which means that proves they're not on the internet. I'm going, yeah, but your Fujitsu scanners are Wi-Fi hotspots. You can stand in the hallway outside of the election office and go, hey, look, I can see your printer from here. Which means if I can see the printer, somebody else can see the printer and then use that as a backdoor into the network. But anyway, that's, they have to get the election results out somehow. I'm like, okay, maybe they put it on a thumb drive and carry it over to a machine that is attached to the internet. But the fact that they won't allow me to prove or disprove this stuff, it's just, it's one of those things where you can say all day long that you're not connected to the internet. And if you won't allow me to prove or disprove it, then I'm just going to have to assume that you're not telling me the full truth.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, I've never accused them of lying. I've never accused them of giving me an untruth, but I have accused them of saying you don't have the technical capability to know if this is true. You're only parroting what the Secretary of State tells you to tell us.
So the
And
second
we all know
one-
what the Secretary of State's been up to for the last
Oh,
couple
yeah. Just some
I
of
feel
that
good about that. Don't you feel good about the
Lamoda
Secretary of
money.
State?
Yeah, how long have we had the new one, and is she about to resign as well, or who's keeping
Any day
track?
now. Any day now.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't want that job myself.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But let's go back to the ballot thing. If they had to redact the ballots because of what they're telling you, then aren't they kind of admitting that it's not a secret ballot to begin with?
Well, and that's kind of the logic that I applied to it, because it says, if you tell me that you have to if you have to remove this information for privacy concerns, then aren't you admitting that there is no privacy? I mean, it's similar to when they had a primary and they printed your party preference on the outside of your voting envelope. I'm like, really? I mean, you think that would be something that you wouldn't want to do? I can see having your voter ID number, and I can see having your ballot ID number on the outside of the envelope.
Right.
But if you have a code on it that says this is Republican, this is Democrat, this is other, it's like, okay, well, look, we got a whole bunch of these envelopes that fell into a waste bin. Thank God they're all Republican, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, thank goodness. Nunya Business, he has a good point here. He says, this is why I'm not nearly as excited about new blood in the Republican Party as some are in Oregon. The phrase election integrity is an oxymoron, meaning that if we've got all these problems in the election, what does it matter if we get good people? Because it seems like the election's going to be skewed and they probably won't win anyway.
Oh yeah, no, I have to agree. I mean, there's a lot of times when I get a little despondent and I'm like, why am I doing all this work? And why am I, we know it's rigged. We know there's no way, anybody with an R next to their name is going to be able to get into an upper office. And I'm like, well, that's what they want me to think. And
Right.
That's how they want me to feel. And, if I'm going to be tilting at windmills, I'm going to enjoy tilting at windmills, riding my donkey like Don Quixote here. Because I'm just like, I don't like the other side of that equation. I'm not going to sit here and let you tell me how to feel or let you tell me how to,
Right.
How to think. I'm going to fight for what I think is right. And, but yeah, you're right. Election integrity is an oxymoron.
The next thing is that just because we're discussing this, and I'm sure you two would agree with this, we still want people to vote always.
They can only cheat so much.
Right.
Right? And everyone needs to vote. And right now, it's so important. If you're non-affiliated, please join the Republican Party. Let's make a stand. We're not going to go anywhere unless we get conservatives on one team. It's unfortunate that the Republicans have made so many mistakes that people don't want to be with them, but we've got to change that. And we've got to join one side because this ship is going over a cliff. And we can't have this. People have to say, it's important to become involved in politics. This is your money. Your standard of living all depends on who you vote for and the policies that they put in place. So if you're foolish enough to say, oh, I don't want anything to do with politics, please send me 50% of your money. Okay? Because you might as well just send it to anybody.
Right.
You have the right to change things if you'll get involved. But if you don't, please send me your money and I'll take care of it for you.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I thought was funny when somebody was talking about, do you really trust vote by mail? Oh, yeah, I really trust vote by mail. I tell you what, put $500 in an envelope and mail it to yourself. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, you don't trust the postal service? You don't trust, you don't trust that it's going to get there? Okay. Just checking.
I sent out 2 Christmas cards to one nephew and one niece in Dallas, Texas. And I normally don't like putting money in the Christmas cards, but it was a late date. So I shoved a 50 in each one of them to send to my niece and my nephew. Do you think they got those cards? All the other people I sent cards to got their cards, but for some reason, they didn't get those 2 cards. It's just a little strange.
Yeah. And the funny thing is I'm looking at the question from Nunya Business, and which is sometimes what I use that name when there's a website that says, give us an email address so that you can, log in, but we won't charge you anything. So I always give them nunya@biz.net, Nunya Biznet. But anyway, it's like with the investigation, honestly, if they would have given me the ballot images, if they would have just turned right around and said, hey, here are the ballot images, and I would have run through them and it would have been, a couple of percentage one way or the other, that would have been it. I mean, the fact that they fought so hard to keep me from that information just made me dig in that much harder. I don't like people flipping me the finger and going, yeah, you're going to have to suck it. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Right.
You're just too
And the
smart,
fact
Marty.
that-
You're just too smart.
Or
And the
maybe not
fact that
smart
the
enough. I
county
probably
clerk-
should have given up a long time ago.
Right,
No,
right.
no.
But no, we had a county clerk resign after we were asking for this information. Or
Yeah.
you were asking.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
leave that part out because that's really quite the juicy tidbit. That left us with Dee Dee Murphy, the
Right.
chair of the Democrat Party. I mean,
Yeah,
that
that's
was an interesting election. That's when I ran for clerk, and it was the circus.
yeah, it was a circus, and it was funny because she quit like days after we confronted her. Or, they said, "Oh, we lost the hard drive." And the odd thing is okay. I'm an IT guy. I've been an IT guy for a long time. Run high-end computer systems. Used to run stock market matching systems, so forth and so on. IT 101 is you make backups of everything because you never know when hardware is going to fail. You never know when a CPU is going to chirp. You never know when a disk drive is going to fall over. So you always have backups. And I'm like, how is it that they had no backups? Secondly, later on when I asked for other things from that election, like log files and a few other odds and ends, they had no problem producing it. I'm like, oh, well, hold on. Didn't you lose the disk drive? I mean, I've never seen a disk drive partially fail. Either it works or it doesn't.
And we asked for third-party verification that it had failed.
Yeah.
And they did not give us any third-party proof that it was ever sent off and that it was looked at by a third party. They just said, oh, the supplier, that's not quite good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
But thank goodness we're done with Dee Dee Murphy. I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
Whew.
It was like every time I had you guys on the radio, the word we used over and over again was anomaly. This anomaly, that anomaly, because we couldn't say corruption because we're not, like you said, we're not calling them liars. We're not saying it was corrupt, but damn, there were sure a lot of curious anomalies that were happening.
Well, I wrote a whole series of articles on auditoregon.com and auditoregon.org. Pick one. They're the same. But anyway, auditoregon.com. I wrote a whole series of articles called The Curious Case of Coos County. And so I outlined the whole, lost the hard drive thing. I wrote another article about how did Dee Dee Murphy get in there. I wrote another article, and I just, every time I haven't written the article about ballot images yet because there's some pieces I want to add to it that I don't have the data for right now. But, I've written like 4 or 5 articles about this now. And, and it's, not a great writer, but it's interesting reading because I'm constantly going in these articles. I can't prove one way or the other, but it certainly makes me curious. And if you read these articles, you'll be looking and going, yeah, it makes me curious too.
So this is information from which election there?
Well, it was 2020 general is how this all got started. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
we're 4 years.
We're still beating on it. Yeah, we're still beating on it, and it's almost 4 years later, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I'm so glad I had you on because, even though we went through this the whole time it was happening, it's good to review it because we're still going on an election that happened 4 years ago because we don't have the whole entire story. And once again, they want to convince us, don't worry, the election, it's transparent and it's completely safe. There's no election fraud going on. And you two are two of the people who know that there's a guy who's contributing money to David Brock Smith by the name of Thomas Tuttle. And Thomas Tuttle has 2 houses. He has one in San Francisco, it's the county of San Francisco in California. He has a house in Gold Beach in Curry County. And I contacted the county clerk in both offices and asked him for his voting record. And he has voted in both residents for the general election in 2018. He voted in both residents, and he voted for the primaries of 2020 using both residents. And they're telling us, no, nothing's going on, nothing to see here.
And this is the man who gave David Brock Smith $150,000. Does character count?
Yeah.
I think it does. Character counts.
Yeah. I mean, who would even do that? I myself, I'm not a billionaire. Maybe they have different rules than I live by, but
they most certainly do.
Yeah, and most certainly do. Yeah, but I would be ashamed. I couldn't do that, and I would just, even if I knew it would be secret, because someone would eventually find out. But even if I knew could be secret, I still would have a huge problem with it because it just wouldn't be right. And I would never do something like that. And yet we have an estimated 400 second houses here in Bandon alone. Okay. We only have 3,500 people living here. We've got 400 estimated second houses. And you got to question the fact, are they getting ballots at the second house and the first house that they live at, whether it's another part of the state or another part of the nation? And are they voting for both residents? Because nobody's checking. I asked the clerk. They don't check.
No one's checking. My daughter still gets ballots here. She's called the clerk, said, no, I don't live there anymore. I live in Eugene. I'm going to school. She gets ballots at the house and at her residence in Eugene.
So I contacted the Secretary of State of both states about Thomas Tuttle, and they said two different things. That on the vote for 2018, that yes, that would be considered voter fraud, but it was past the statute of limitations. And they said the vote on 2020, because the primaries for the two states were on different dates. One was in March, that was the California one. One was in May, that was the Oregon one. Because they weren't on the same dates, it doesn't qualify as voter fraud in their eyes, even though it was a presidential election and he voted in the primary for two different states. But I did find out it is against federal law, and the feds haven't answered me back yet, but I'm waiting for their response to what's going to happen to good old Mr. Tuttle, because I think we need to make an example of him.
I think so, Rob.
Oh, and one of the things that we left out of our Thomas Tuttle DBS story is that Thomas Tuttle, for the longest time, was one of the managing directors of Newport Asia, which is a huge money fund in San Francisco that invests solely in Asian markets and mostly in Chinese markets. So that was one of the things that's one of the key pieces of the story that we didn't bring back into it, because we've told it so many times to so many people, we've kind of forgotten to bring it up this time. But that's why we were curious about David Brock Smith getting money from this guy. I mean, yeah, sure, he's a Democrat. Yeah, I mean, sure, he's a Democrat, but he's got a house in Gold Beach, and if he wants to, he can donate whoever he wants to donate to. But if David Brock Smith is on the China Council and he's getting all this money from a guy who invests heavily in China, even though he's retired now, I'm sure he still has a lot of money invested in that, because you don't run that kind of fund and then suddenly go, you know what, I'm not keeping my money in this fund because I don't believe in it anymore. No, that's not how it works. And so that was the big question we asked. It was a simple question. And it's like, can you explain to us why this connection, is, it might be as innocent as could be. And we're just asking you why there is this connection and what would you have to say about it? And instead of answering the question, he blew up and then basically, kept lobbing hand grenades at us. So,
and then he keeps going on with things that I remember from the meeting that we went to. Remember where he had a fit about being videotaped? He said there are no Chinese manufacturers of windmills for offshore. But he forgot to say the majority of the onshore windmills are produced in China.
Let's show that video. Here it is.
I didn't know we were recording.
No problem?
No, thank you. And so actually it is, because I don't trust you to cut and paste anything and use it later. And so please stop recording me. Thank you.
I disagree.
Will you please stop recording me as well?
I disagree, because you've already slandered me and my dad's family in front of 140 people at the Douglas County.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Okay, well, I'm not going to allow you to intimidate me by any means, but...
Go ahead and speak. This is transparent.
It is, actually, but you two individuals will try to use it and cut it and put it in a video or whatever.
That's what press does.
You're not the press.
Well, that's because of you.
You're my opponent's campaign manager.
Absolutely.
And anyway, so now you know the fighting within, folks.
I can't stop it.
Well, no, it's fine. So I do want to say that I am happy to have my record talked about, but I really will push back when you lie about it. And when you sit there and you want to spread misinformation, when you want to, Diane Rich, go have meetings and say that I was forced, that I was forced to give my England Marine check back because they wanted it back, is a lie. And
it was untrue, and guess what? It was a question. Again, David, you misunderstand.
No, it wasn't.
People can ask a question. I noticed in the Secretary of State filings that England Marine had returned the $5,000 donation to him. And I asked my friend, Leonard Krug, at the Oregon Anglers Association if he knew anything about it. That's all I did. Is that okay with you, Dave?
well,
Okay.
what got back to me was that there was a group of people that you met with, and you said that I was forced to give it back because they wanted it back. So there, so I am good to go when it comes to defending my record. I have a 68.68% CPAC record.
I have a 68 point something
Well-
CPAC record.
So what got back to me was, okay, so you're quoting hearsay,
Right.
but you have no problem slandering us with your hearsay. Yeah, and anybody that uses the phrase misinformation, oh my goodness, you're instantly on my I can't trust you list.
Exactly. Right. You know, the misinformation that David's talking about is from the Secretary of State's office.
Yeah, we went to Orastar. I got all this information from Orastar, the database of campaign donations, who the donations came from, who they go to.
The government's lying to us, Marty. They gave us the wrong records.
Yeah, exactly. You can't trust the Orastar. You can't trust the state information, huh?
You can't do that. I mean, word misinformation is synonymous with DBS. He's not synonymous with us. That is not true. Absolutely not true.
And at no point did we lie. Now, you know, the whole, like, you know, England Marine wanted the money back. Okay, you know, maybe it was like, okay, we got some bad information and we're fine with saying, hey, we got some bad information. But his whole thing is, you know, nothing, I've never done anything wrong. You know, I'm more than happy for you to look at my record. But when we bring up his record, he's going, well, I didn't say that. It's like, well, we have you, you know, yes, you did. 4 people in this room were at that meeting. You said that. Well, I never said this either. You know, we have an audio recording of you that has not been edited that basically shows that. And I'm sure if we showed him this video, he'd be going, well, you know, that's probably just AI generated, deep fake. Yeah, I'm like, I bet you can't even define what that means. But sure, go ahead and say that, because those are the talking points of pathological liars.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, if you notice, what did the narcissist do? He created the conflict. Everyone was quiet. I had been filming the entire time. I filmed Monica Despain. I filmed Todd Vaughn. There was never a question, and no one had a problem until he said, oh, you're going to change things around. Why would I bother? All we have to do is show him as he is for him to look bad. We don't need to cut and paste anything. And at that point, Marty, I've never made a video of David Brock Smith in my entire life, ever. Don't want to.
I have.
You have. I know you.
I have. I got a few videos.
And he didn't accuse you. He
there's
accused
more
me.
coming. I got more coming, but they accused Diane. And the funny thing is he went after Danessa Rains, and she didn't even have nothing to do with it. That's funny.
Well, then misinformation.
And then showed up unannounced and uninvited to Danessa's dad's house and threatened him. And I'm like going, okay, first off, Danessa was never in on any of this. I mean, you know, the whole like radio show blowback, you know, atom bomb, you know, let's have Virgil Osborne and Court Boyce and Rod Schilling and everybody in the world and their pet dog write angry letters about us. It's like Danessa and Danessa's dad weren't even, didn't even know this stuff was going on, I'm guessing. And now they're being accused by Mr. Paranoid that they're somehow involved. And I'm like going, so you're going to a guy in the county that is like very well heeled and has been, supporting the Republican Party for God knows how long. And you're going to go threaten the guy? How big of an idiot are you?
Gonna send my wolves down on you and your daughter. This is a senator.
Yeah.
No, he's not a representative I want. That man does not represent me. And anyone who would act that way doesn't deserve to be in office. He needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a thug, but I mean, he was also, he's involved in he's got investments in China, and it's like, yes, so what? He's a private citizen. He's not running for office. He's not deciding which bills go and which bills don't. He's not the one that's like, if Tuttle was telling Brock Smith what to do, it would be like, because Tuttle would be like going, you really need to invest in this company because I've got a lot of money in this company. And if I make $1 billion, I'll give you 10%, the big guy, David Brock Smith.
Right. And I have to point out that David Brock Smith is still on the Oregon China Council, and he's on the Oregon China Southern Council. I forget the exact name of the second one, but he's on both councils still. He's still listed as a person who's on those councils. And you have to question, why do we need state legislators traveling to China in the first place? That just...
Well, Rob, I was an international vice president of a Swiss watch company. And I brought in watches for the Utah Jazz. I brought watches in for the LA Lakers. We did trademark work. I didn't once talk to a senator in Utah to help me do this business.
Right.
We basically got on the phone with the manufacturers in Switzerland and the people that we wanted to do business with, and we made it happen. All that they're doing is grease.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not okay. It's not okay.
So I don't know if you've seen this, Diane, and I'm because we were just talking about that. We've been talking about the windmills, but there is a new bill that has been put forward in the legislature, offshore wind plants along Southwest Oregon coast scrutinized, and they've just expanded the area. In this bill, if this bill passes, they're going to expand it. And I want to read part of this article for you from the Northwest Observer. It says, offshore wind plants along Southwest Oregon coast scrutinized 14 gigawatts wind project under review. The House Committee on Business and Labor held an early morning hearing recently where they received opposition to the proposed offshore wind energy legislation in House Bill 4080. That bill is still active right now. And by the way, Boomer Wright is one of the sponsors of this damn bill. But let me read further. It says, Oregon 2022 Biannual Energy Report states on page 11 that Oregonians consume 53.7 million megawatt hours of electricity in 2020 from both in-state and out-of-state sources. During 2020, the energy resource mix was comprised of hydro 38%, coal 26%, natural gas 21%, land-based wind 7%, nuclear 3.5%, and other forms including solar, biomass, and geothermal, which was 2.6%. It is understood that the project output of Oregon's offshore wind farms in both call areas will be 14 gigawatts, requiring dozens of specialized vessels manned and with expert technicians, adding 19% of Oregon's average annual needs to the grid. Begs the question of whether this gargantuan project benefits will outweigh its gargantuan cost that Oregonians will be required to shoulder via state and federal taxation as capital outlays and ongoing cost of operations and maintenance for this seasonal energy source are fully accounted for. Have you heard about this, Diane?
Yes, I have. It's an answer to the fact that the counties would not allow them to bring the wiring on board. This is a horrible bill. This is a horrible situation. There is nothing good about this. You know, we've got methane flumes and mud volcanoes on the floor here of this area where they're trying to bring in the windmills. What's going to happen? We don't know. 5 tectonic plates are crossing, and they want to attach these great big blades to these unstable areas. Every expert has said no. Not a single environmental impact statement has been written or asked for by the state. This is something that we should be filing a class lawsuit against. Every county should be involved. The whole state of Oregon should be filing a class action suit against the federal government and our governor. This is not okay. And we're taking out all of our fishermen. I don't know about you, but the standard of living that we have here on the coast of Oregon is directly influenced by our fishermen and our fleets.
But remember, Diane, in HB 50, oh gosh, now I can't think of the number, 4375. Yeah, in that bill, you know, he brags about how he took that out of the hands of the governor, which is weird because he keeps writing the governor with the Coastal Caucus asking her to help stop it. So that's weird that he took it out of her hands, but yet he's asking her to stop it, number one. But number two, he also takes credit for reducing the size of those call areas. And if you look at that map, that call area just expanded hugely.
Well, David Brock Smith has told some pretty big tales along the way, and I think we're all aware of how he operates. And he talks out of one side of his mouth and then the other. And, you know, a lot of politicians, they say do that. I think he's just better at it than most. We've got to stop this project, and you and I are at the forefront of stopping this project. The only thing that we can do is try to make sure that they don't get an investor. The OSU project, where they were supposed to spend $2.5 million to talk us into it, they realized they would not be able to show an ROI on that investment because everyone here does not want them. And the only reason now that David Brock Smith is not on this new bill is because he's running for election. If he was not running for election, he would have sponsored it. Look at the past history of this man, and you would know it's 100% accurate.
I'm disgusted with Boomer Wright. He should know better than that. And Marty, you had a lot to say on this before we went on. What you want to go ahead and respond?
Oh yeah, basically, it's interesting in that, you know, you'll read through that article. And by the way, if anybody wants to read that article, it is at northwestobserver.com, and it's on the main page at this point. But basically what they say is that there's absolutely no way they can get their return on investment, their ROI on these things, because even in the ideal environment of having a windmill on land, you know, they're only good for about 20 years. Well, how long is it going to take to pay back, you know, something that's, you know, it's like 13 miles out to sea in the roughest seas around, you know, right in the middle of whale migration areas and where, you know, birds migrate, and it's going to screw up fishing. And, you know, if you have a megawatt or a gigawatt cable laying on the ocean floor, what's that do with the crabs, you know, and everything else that lives on the ocean floor, or anything that just happens to be in the area? You know, how many whales are we going to kill? All the people that are for green energy, all of a sudden when you say, well, this could kill birds, this could kill whales, they're going, we need green energy. And what, now the whales can go screw it? I mean, what the hell?
No,
I mean,
Marty,
pick a side.
I disagree. The majority of the people, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are all saying no to the windmills.
Yeah, but I mean, I've heard
those people who stand with their hands out, waiting to get that money.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of.
There's not a single person that we've talked to. I don't know, Rob, true or false. We didn't have people coming up and say, "Hey, we just can't wait for the windmills."
I don't think those are the people Marty's talking about, though. He's talking about the ones who are going to get their palms greased.
Well, I mean, the person I was talking about when we were, you know, last time I listened in on a Board of Commissioners meeting, you know, somebody got up, you know, one of the ballot advisory measures was, should we try to keep windmills off the coast? And, you know, somebody got up and said, we need green energy, we need windmills. And it's like, but, you know, you want to kill whales. So what kind of green are you going for here? And And the other one was, one of the things that I brought up previously, and I just it's a thought that floated through my head. It was like going, well, now that all their money laundering operations in Ukraine are being shut off and they can't, what happens is billions of dollars go to the Ukraine, it turns around and goes back to an NGO, either overseas or in the United States, and that's how they go out and grease the pockets or grease the palms and line the pockets, So it's money laundering, and that avenue has been kind of cut off. And now it's like, oh my God, now we're going to have to do all these green energy products, and I mean right now, because we need to launder more money. I mean, we got to put $1 billion into windmills. We got to put $1 trillion into windmills because Daddy needs his money.
Big man needs it.
Mr. Big.
Yeah, the big guy needs his money.
The big guy, yeah, he's got some crack to buy for the kid, I mean, come on. Christmas is
never
coming
before
up.
have we had cocaine in the White House, at least that they caught.
Yeah,
It just makes us proud, doesn't it? Just makes us proud.
I think that was Biden's cocaine. If you ever see him before he goes onto the stage, he's always full of energy. It's always after when he dies down. I think he needs a little bit of mother's helper in his little bag of cocaine before he goes on stage. That's why he starts shaking hands with people who aren't there. He's
Daddy needs a bump.
Daddy needs a bump. Oh, geez. But I want to go back to what you were saying, Marty, about I'm not sure it was the last commissioners meeting or the one before last, where they had 5 advisory questions on there.
Yeah.
And they had 4 advisory questions, and 3 of them I thought were good. The 3 were, the first one was, do you oppose these windmill projects? And that was a great one. I think everyone would have been supportive of this. And then they had another one, do you support school choice, which I thought was a good one too, but it was a little more controversial. Then they had a third one. Do you support, I forget the exact word, and you'll have to help me out with this when we get to you, is about election integrity. And then there was one that I think Rod Taylor supported, and we had warned him that this was a bad idea, but he did it anyway. Should the county clerk be appointed? And because I believe of that one question, that's why the Democrats showed up in force, and that's why we lost all 4 advisory questions for the May ballot. What are your thoughts on this, Marty?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was a little dubious about the whole clerk appointed and not elected thing. I mean, I helped write some of these. I basically wrote the templates, and then Rod would work on them. I think maybe Bob was working on the windmill one. But the whole point was, instead of giving them a blank sheet and saying, okay, here, we should do something about voting, we should do something about windmills. I wrote something up and gave it to them, and then they could use the SEL 801 form and change the wording so that it sounds correct. And I was kind of dead set against the clerk appointed and not elected because it's going to be difficult enough to get these measures on these advisory measures on the ballot. You certainly don't want to be poking the clerk at the same, hitting the clerk over the head with a club going, oh, and by the way, we want to change how you're elected.
Right.
And
the strategy was terrible.
Yeah, that was probably not a good strategy. But the whole thing is the reason it came up is that we've had a lot of issues with the clerk who does not pay attention to anything the commissioners have to say and will not respond to anything because she's only beholden to the Secretary of State. She only does what the Secretary of State tells her to do.
Right.
And if the commissioners come to her and say, we would like to see this, or we'd like to do that, she's like, screw off. I mean, I'm sure she says it more politely than that, obviously, but because I said, hey, Rod, you are the liaison over the clerk's office. Why can't you do something? He's going, I can't. And I'm like, well, then don't approve their budget. Problem solved.
That's what I told him. He has control over every office through the budget. He controls the shit. In fact, that's what we were arguing with about the tax levy that he put on the ballot, is that one of the reasons we believe it's going to fail is because we don't think that people are going to trust the commissioners enough to get that money to where it needs to go, which is the sheriff's office. And that's why we would like to see the sheriff have his own taxing district, which does take some of the ability of the commissioners to have authority over the sheriff. But he already has authority over every other office because they can vote not to give him a damn dime. Sorry, you ain't getting any money if you don't play ball.
Mm-hmm.
Any response on that? Anyone?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was looking at something else on my screen and I couldn't remember whether I muted the microphone or not. So
Yeah, I'm so
Japanese
used to jumping in on the
porno,
top of you
damn
guys.
it.
I held back once. The only time I held back.
wow, I missed my opening. Darn it.
I
You
think
missed
that
it.
the
You
clerk
missed
needs
it.
to be where she is because she
So-
shouldn't be affected so much by the county commissioners. The only problem is that the clerk that we have in was put in by Dee Dee Murphy. I don't
Right.
know if we have a chance to change things from having a Democrat clerk ever. But no, if he would just have gone with the regular questions that we really, really wanted, it would have been great.
Yeah.
Throwing that question in there was a disastrous move. It should never have been done. And, we've been planning these questions for a year.
Right.
A year. And now it's all in the garbage because of a last minute, let's do a big one that really isn't going to get us anywhere because that would never make it on the ballot. But
I
making
don't
sure
know
that the
why.
windmills,
Yeah.
that would have been really valuable,
That would have been very valuable. And I don't know why he didn't come to us because we were like 3 of the people in the core group that helped him get elected. And that's what I always tell him. Candidate Rod, we loved Candidate Rod. Commissioner Rod, sometimes
Not
he's a
so
little
much.
hard to work with. Yeah, it's like I still love you, Rod, but Commissioner Rod is much harder to love sometimes. And this strategy he took was bad. And my recommendation, and I'm going to go to the commissioners and talk to them about this, is that they need to take the least offensive question, which I would believe would be the windmill question, because I think a lot of Democrats oppose it as well.
Mhm.
And I would say put that on the agenda by itself. Pass that one question and then go to the next question and do the work your way up to the most offensive one if he still wants to do the question on the clerk. And if he does do the question on the clerk and it brings out all those Democrats like the wild dogs that they were, they wheeled out old Arnie Roblin and they wheeled out Cotty McEwen and they brought all their forces there. I think he would have a better chance of passing the questions on an individual basis over a longer period of time instead of putting all the damn questions on there at once. I don't know. What do you guys
100% agree.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking, initially I was only going with the voting and the wind farm. I mean, I also had one for Greater Idaho, and I was like going, that's just a whimsical one because you need to get the state legislature for Oregon and Idaho to agree to something which will never happen. But if we sent out a ballot to, a question to 49,000 people and 45,000 of them said, yeah, we want Greater Idaho, that sends a message. That's the only point. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, is it realistic that this is going to happen? No, but that's why it's an advisory question and not something that actually changes a law or actually makes any progress in changing a law. It's simply asking a question and say, hey, we want to know what every single voter in Coos County thinks about this question. So like, for instance, on the wind farm one, it says, hey, this is an advisory vote to determine public opinion. The Federal Bureau of Ocean Energy Management is seeking to lease out 61,000 acres of prime fishing grounds for tuna and other species off Coos County. So the question was, should Coos County allow installation of a 61,000 acre floating wind farm off our coast? And that was the question. Yes or no? Do you agree or disagree? And then so the commissioners, it's like, is this something that you want us to look into? And that's it. It didn't say, oh, we're going to allocate all our time and yes, we're going to change laws that, they can't change laws on stuff like that. It's an advisory measure. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I think that would have gone so far to be able to take that back to the governor and say, in Coos County, we do have 60,000 and 57,000 voted no. This is important.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
we needed that. We really, really needed that. Where was the shill?
Where was the shill?
Where was the shill?
yeah. How is it that the Democrats, with 24 hours notice, could pack the room with howling dogs?
Why don't we ask Mr. Rod Taylor, because he's joining us right now, Commissioner
Uh-oh.
Rod Taylor. Rod, how you doing?
Hey, good afternoon, Rob, Marty, Diane.
Hey,
Were your ears burning, or were you actually listening to the show?
No, I've been watching the whole show.
uh-oh.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Yes. So one thing that I want to point out is that you know, I heard what you guys were saying about the appointed clerk question that that I threw in there, and I think that probably did attract some opposition. But one thing I don't remember is either one of you guys ever saying to me, "That's not a good idea. You shouldn't put that one up there."
Did you call us? Did you ask us?
So
You know my phone number. You know his phone number.
yeah, you know, Diane, actually, you and I don't really talk about stuff like that. So, you know, I do converse with Marty and Rob, but, you know, it was out there. It was, you know, maybe it wasn't a great idea. So anyway.
Well, and it's not that it wasn't a great idea. It was just, I was saying that, you know, and I do think I did mention, I was like, yeah, you know, this doesn't seem like a great idea, but at the same time, I was just helping out by filling in. I mean, you sort of dropped that one on me at the last minute. And I'm like, going, yeah, okay, I could write this, but I don't know if it's a good idea. And I think that was my complete response.
Well, I wish I would have, you know, I mean, I'm open to input. I wish that, you know, something would have been said about that. But
well, I agreed with the concept of it, but I just assumed, you know, I agreed with the concept of it. And I figured, well, if we drop like 3 or 4 measures at one time, you know, maybe it would help 1 or 2 of them survive. So I kind of looked at it from the standpoint of it's not a super great idea, but it wasn't so bad that I said, I'm not going to help you write this. This is horrible. It was like, you know, I think the voting in the wind farm is much more important, and the other one's great. The more we add to it, because we did write one about a sheriff and jail taxing thing, and you said, well, we got to drop this one because it's going to be confused with the levy. And I said, yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah.
Right.
So we did have dialogues about it.
Rod. But the thing is, Rod, we did discuss this at a meeting at the church, and Marty was there, and I know me and Marty had our hesitance about putting the clerk up to appointment instead of election. And you know, for all's fair, we go to a lot of meetings. You may just have missed that, but I do remember we were opposed to that because you had brought that question up, and there was about 6 of us there. We were in the church cafeteria when we were discussing that.
Sure, I remember a couple of meetings we had like that. I don't recall that specific question coming up. I wish I did. And I think that your analysis on it really is right. That's probably what drew out the heavy opposition.
I just assumed the heavy opposition was because of the voting thing. You know, everybody that got up at the Board of Commissioners meeting was, it's law, you can't change the law. You know, I can't make it to the ballot box. I can't make it to my precinct ballots box. And I'm like, yeah, but you made it to the commissioners meeting with 24 hours notice. So,
but, you know, regarding the offshore wind question, you know, it was a little bit difficult when I got people on both sides of that issue saying that, you know, we need to actually inform the voters a little bit better about this question, because you might not get a valid question or a valid answer. And, you know, and I thought that point had some credence. I at the moment, I forget the name of the gal who represented the fishing fleet, but that was her position.
Heather Mann.
She'd prefer to see that question on the November ballot and take the opportunity to do some voter education.
Okay. Yeah. See, now I misinterpret. I remember you saying that in some of the texts we sent back and forth. And that's not how I interpreted it. I thought you were saying they needed to be educated on how to ask questions. So I didn't, now I understand what you're saying, in that we need to educate the population and ask a question that's not going to come up with a result that is invalidated by the fact that the question was too, was too biased in one direction or another. So, okay, I get that. I get that one now.
Yeah.
And let me say that's a very valid point, Rod, because I had the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance on the ballot. This is years after we did the preservation ordinance, and part of the reason it failed is I thought it was such a good bill that people would completely understand it, but they didn't understand it, and they thought it was going to ruin the preservation ordinance, and they thought it was antithesis to what it really said. And that bill failed here, and I was blown away. I was really surprised, and I take full blame for that. It happens.
Right. So, we will definitely put the offshore wind energy question on the November ballot. My plan is to hold some town halls and engage some public engagement events to make sure that we have an educated answer coming from the electorate when we do put that question out there. So, and then I think that the election reform one really falls into the same category. And I'm seeing, even today, I saw some information indicating that there's a substantial body of the electorate who really is seeing the problems with the mail-in ballot platform that we have right now in Oregon. And I think that we actually might receive an answer that I would personally find favorable when we put that up in November. But both of those topics really need to be covered with a voter education campaign through the summer, and that's definitely on my plan.
Okie dokie. Yeah, because we started the voting one quite a while ago, and it was decided that we wouldn't put it on the November ballot of last year because there was nothing coming up. There would be no ballots sent out because there was nothing in the county, nothing in any cities. And it's like, okay, it would be idiocy to send out a one question ballot advisory, a one question ballot that asked about voting integrity that cost the county $70,000, and be like, yeah, that just doesn't send the right message at all.
Right.
So yeah, so it's one of those things where I guess where I get my dander up on this stuff is that we're asking advisory questions. We're not saying we're going to change the laws. And the whole point is I thought it made the commissioners, I've heard time and time again, the commissioners are saying everybody complains that they don't get enough, we don't get enough feedback before we make decisions. Well, this was the opportunity to get the feedback of every single voter in the county. And yeah, the questions might not be quite right. The questions might be a bit ambiguous or not worded correctly, but it's not that there's any danger of the law changing. It's just asking a question. And if you get a response and it's like, and then a lot of people say, well, that response is tainted because you wrote the question wrong. At least everybody got engaged, which means all three commissioners look like they're engaging in the whole electorate and saying, we want your feedback. And that's basically, that was the point I was trying to make. It's like, yeah, I understand the point of maybe we should educate people and, ask a better question. But also at the same time, I was like, you got 50 howling monkeys at the Board of Commissioners meeting that are quieting the voice of 50,000 voters in the county. And I'm like, that I find annoying. And I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming Bob Main. I'm not blaming, Mr. Sweet. I'm just saying it was such a great opportunity and now the opportunity is gone. I mean, it's like, it's a shame.
And I will say this, the fact that you're bringing up questions is important because that's something the previous board with Melissa Cribbins there, they never talked about advisory questions. They didn't even hardly entertain the idea. So that is one refreshing thing about your service in the office right now.
Well, thanks for that. And I do want to correct one last point that Marty made there. The opportunity is certainly not gone. We're not going to make it onto the May ballot with this, but we certainly will make it onto the November. And hopefully in that process, we'll have an opportunity to have a much better representation on the side of putting the questions out there, because the reality in the room that day was, we had basically 98% or 95%, 90%, I don't know, opposed, and like 2 or 3 people in favor, and that was it. So, I don't know where everybody was, but when,
Right.
on the wind energy question, when I heard the considered view of the fishing fleet coming across as, hey, we should really educate the voters a little bit more before we put this question out there, then that kind of tipped the whole thing for me. And I do believe that, I think that the county will be well served if we get an approval of the levy. I've seen a lot of objections to it that are actually not founded in fact. I was just answering one right before I jumped on here. So, it's important not to confuse that issue, to see if we can get that levy to fly through and get our jail. We'll have a 5-year reprieve to be able to fund the jail and the district attorney's office the way that they need to be funded, get us out of the financial pinch. And my hope and prayer is that in those intervening years, the ONC lands issue will be resolved. That case is going to be heard at the Supreme Court of the United States in April, and hopefully we'll see a turnaround, and within those 5 years start to see those revenues flow again. But I can't know the future, but that's my best guess and hope.
And one point, or one thing I'd like to bring up is that we've been talking about education and getting the voters educated. Well, I think we're going to have to do a lot of education between now and May 21st if you expect this levy to pass, because knee-jerk reaction is going to be, you're going to tax me more, what now? And if you I think there needs to be some sort of concerted effort to get this levy to pass. You're going to have to educate people about, it's only a 5-year thing, it's only this percent, we are the lowest taxed county in the state, et cetera, and get the mantra out there so that it has a better chance of passing. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree with you.
For the record, I don't agree, but I don't want to argue further on this. But I do have something that I want to ask you about since I have you on here. What has happened since the meeting? It was on a Thursday. I forget the date. It was last week or the week before. Gosh, they're all starting to run into with the right-of-way issue. Where are we at with the right-of-way issue?
So we've had 2 public meetings with the rights of way issue. The first was more like a town hall. The second was an actual work session. And the work session went far better than the town hall did in terms of participatory, cooperative resolution seeking. In between those 2 public meetings, I also held a private meeting with about 10 of the landowners who were prominently present in that first meeting. And we hashed out some points of concern and interest that they'd like to see addressed. So, we addressed those issues and those questions in the second meeting. We came up with another list of concerns. My hope was to come out of that work session with an actual voted on work product. We weren't quite able to get there because there were more suggestions that came in, and we needed to adjust a little bit the implementation policy that I had written and proposed. an implementation policy to basically operate as a filter over the county code, so that we could adjust the implementation of the code without removing that code, because sometimes if we have an intransigent landowner who will not cooperate, we need the code there in order to be able to enforce the interest of the people of Coos County. So anyway, we've got a little bit more work to do on that. Nothing's happened on it really in the last week. I was gone for a few days. We've had a lot of intervening things, so the wheels don't always turn real quickly. But the operative point on that issue right now is that there is a moratorium. There are no more citations or fines being issued on the rights of issue or at this time, and there won't be. So we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We've got a real great basis of agreement between the small group of landowners that I met privately with. And we had, I think, a very great agreement in the room last Thursday night.
Yeah.
A week ago last Thursday, with like one or maybe two exceptions, people who were a little bit belligerent. But I think by and large, the main body of the room was in agreement that we're moving in the right direction. So we're going to get there.
Yeah, even the attorney was, I think he was much more applicable to what you guys were doing. I think he was much more in favor of what you're doing. He sounded like it, and I think Bob and him had a great back and forth about the setback itself that I thought was a good exchange. So I think the whole meeting was much better than that first meeting, and I think you did a better job of that one. And so you had any response from that meeting? Have you positive, negative? Because it seems like those people are really engaged, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've had no negative feedback from that meeting a week ago Thursday. I have gotten several, not a lot, but several, maybe 4 or 5 positive comments, and certainly we have a great basis to move forward. I'm very enthused about how that's going to go in our next meeting. In fact, what we'll do is we'll have once we get the product refined a little bit, we'll have a third town hall meeting, and I have said that I would be announcing the schedule on that meeting sometime within the next 2 weeks.
All right. Before we go on to the next issue, and you're more than welcome to stay and talk with us because we're going to be talking about legislation here in a minute. Is there anything you want to tell people?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say that it's important that, well, here's one thing that's really important is there is going to be an event in Salem on Thursday, and I think I'm going to be going up for that. This is an event to get to address the
HCP.
the HCP issue. Yes, thank you. And that's the habitat conservation plan that affects all of our forestry practices in the Northwest. So, I'd encourage people to get up to Salem for that early morning. It's actually starts at like 7:30. The log trucks are going to start to roll around the Capitol, and there will be some decisions being made. It's important that our legislators hear our voices, and I'm 90% sure at this point that my wife and I will be going up there and making a presence as well.
Is there any specific legislation that they're doing that should be spoke on?
Yeah, there is.
FMP. HCP.
Yeah.
Forest Management Plan, HCP. Both of those should be talked about, but they're both, it's too late. I mean, basically, it's signed and sealed at this point. We've been fighting this for 2 years, and it's signed and sealed. They're done. So we can all stand up now, but it's signed and sealed. It's over.
It's going to end up in the courts, like the windmill project. I think it's all going to end up in the courts. I don't know, Rod. What would you think of that? I mean, people who, don't discourage people from going, but don't you think at this point it's all going to end up in the courts?
Well, it probably will, but I don't think that's a reason to not let your voice be heard. There's a lot of effort being put into making these voices heard, and you can throw cold water on doing that, but I still think there's value. So,
well, I've just attended all of the HCP meetings at the Board of Forestry, and they've never changed their minds at all. We've had all kinds of different meetings. We've dropped 1,000 letters of 1,000 supporters against the HCP on their desk. It didn't move the needle. Nothing's moved the needle. They're not going to change. They're going to go forward with the HCP.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad. That's depressing.
It's horrible.
But I agree with Rod. If people want to go up there, and they should go up there and see their legislators, because okay, Rod, were you listening to when we were talking about the windmill bill that they're putting forward with the 14 gigawatts they want to do off the shore? Have you seen this?
I think I missed that part. I did have a couple other things going on that I was trying to get into as well.
It's House Bill 4080. They've increased the size of the call areas off the coast of Coos Bay, and they're going to increase it from 3 gigawatts to 14 gigawatts, and once again, make it mandatory in this bill. Isn't that right, Marty?
That's right. That's right.
I don't know what happened to Marty.
Marty.
Looks like you might be gone. The offshore wind is out here is just an absolutely crazy plan. There is no way that project is going to be a profitable, beneficial project for anyone. I mean, it'll be profitable for the people doing the initial installation, and it'll be profitable for the lobbyists, and it'll be probably profitable for some electeds who are getting paid under the table. I don't know, but profitable to our actual energy grid, profitable to Coos County, to Curry County. No, right. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a disaster and a boondoggle, and I'm absolutely opposed to it. Mm-hmm. So, we need to get people coordinated, organized, and stand up against it before this thing gets out of the chute.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And once again, I unfortunately, and we're going to have protests on this. We'll let you know where the protests are because we want you to be there. But I think eventually this once again will be in the court system. I think this will be just something because they're just so forceful with it. And unless, the only thing that will stop it is if President Donald Trump is reelected again, and I think he will go far in trying to stop this kind of boondoggle because he knows it's a waste for the country, and so I hope so.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, hey, I have a city council meeting that I'm going to have to get to, and I got a couple things to do between now and then, so I should probably jump right now, but I was pleased to be able to get on with you guys, and thanks for the chance, and I hope you have a great evening.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Rod. You take care.
Right. Yeah, thanks very much for chiming in. It's great to hear from you, and I'm glad we got a couple of things cleared up.
Me too.
Me
thanks.
too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, there's Marty. We thought we lost you, Marty.
No, well, I put in the private chat BRB, which means I'll be right back, because it actually means
Yeah,
bathroom.
I saw that. I'm sitting here
Yeah.
going, "What's a BRB? What the hell's he doing, man?"
Be right back. Muted the microphone because it was a bathroom break. I was like, yeah, back teeth are floating. Gotta go.
God, this has been such a good conversation. I still have a couple of more things I want to talk to you guys about, because this is real important, because it's the legislative session that's in session right now. They're seeing some crazy bills. Senate Bill 1537A, a reform land use and fund. It reforms land use and funds housing, which it really doesn't. It says COTEC has asked for $600 million in funding, including $200 million for revolving loan developers could use to build homes for middle-income Oregonians, $200 million to help cities and tribal councils pay for infrastructure needs, $65 million to keep existing homeless shelters running, and $35 million for eviction prevention. The Senate Housing and Development Committee cut her request almost in half when it unanimously approved an amendment version of the bill and a separate budget measure that's in Senate Bill 1530 with a total of $350 million. There are three physical inputs to the housing supply process: land, labor, and materials. There is also an intangible factor that is even more important: government regulation. SB 1537 doesn't help much in these areas. The urban growth boundary expansions may increase housing supply slightly, but that gain is offset by the affordable housing and density mandates in the bill. Have you guys heard of this one?
No, I think that you found a winner there, though. You know, it's whatever wolf you feed will grow. If you want to have more homeless, throw some money at it and make some more homeless. They can't seem to understand that if they had let the permitting process go through and let contractors build homes without having to wait a full year to get a permit, we wouldn't be in this situation. We don't need to come out with $600 million or $300 million to fix this problem. This is a problem of permitting. If there are people that are able to rent homes, they can be built. If the government doesn't slow down the permits to the point they can't afford to build.
And Diane, do you know which two of our favorite senators voted in favor of this?
Well,
yes, that's right. David Brock Smith and Dick Anderson. Yeah.
There you go. The winners.
The winners. They want to give more money to this governor.
Of let's have homeless. Let's build a homeless program and let's fund it to the gills and see what happens. I mean, doesn't David Brock Smith have a really good relationship with Tara Johnson?
Yes, she does. Yes, he does. I'm sorry. Yes, he has
you know
a
how
great
popular
relationship.
Tara is here in Coos Bay, North Bend, and Empire.
And
one of the things is, one of the things that, you know, and it's been brought up, but we need to kind of stress it a little bit more, is that you give more money for somebody to be homeless, then what's their impetus to stop being homeless? It's like, you know, it's like I read an article the other day where some guy said, I came to Oregon to be homeless because they cater to my every whim. I mean, it's like, why would I go, you know, it's like when they had the COVID stuff and they're like paying people unemployment, you know, huge amounts of unemployment, and then well beyond when that should have been going on. And it's like, well, we can't find people to work at $12 an hour jobs or $15 an hour jobs. Yeah, because they're getting paid to not work.
Right.
No wonder you can't find employees. No wonder you can't find work ethic if you're paying people to not work and to not try to get a home. I mean, what do you think the outcome of that's going to be?
It just seems that every logical choice that can be made cannot be made by the Oregon government.
Well, and the whole point is they want everybody to be dependent on the government dollar because you can control them better if you know, if you're depending on the government for your unemployment, if you're depending on the government for your homeless stuff, well, the government says, oh, and by the way, now you got to wear a pink hat with 2 gold stars on it. And you know how many people are going to be wearing pink hats with 2 gold stars starting tomorrow? Right. A lot of people.
a lot of people, especially the ones who are on the dole. And here's the thing, they didn't have to give her any more money. Like Diane said, you relax the land use laws because 98% of the land here in Oregon is not even developed, because part of that is because 54% of it is owned by the federal government. So you get rid of those land use laws, you get rid of the urban growth boundaries and let the utilities decide where they want to develop those utilities. You get rid of the regulations on housing, you get rid of the development fees on housing, and the permitting process is absolutely ridiculous. Like Diane said, there are 5 things right there that could be done and would be better at bringing in housing than this monstrosity
any
of a bill.
spending of money, any amount of money we spend will fail, absolutely fail. Low-income housing has never worked. It has created the green zones in Chicago that are, the police won't even go in there. Do we not have history? Can't we look at this? And it just really upsets me when Rob and I have been on air talking about that HCP, and I'm just going to go back to it right this minute, talking about it over and over and over and over, how important it was to get those timber taxes. And now when they've signed it, we're going to go. What about all the other meetings? What about all the other meetings? I'll tell you what, there were 30 people at the last meeting Rob and I went to, and we both gave testimony. This is ridiculous for government leaders to now say, oh, let's get involved and go. They're signing it right now. It's over. It's over. I'm sorry, I'm just angry. I spent a lot of time fighting the HCP, and for now people to get excited about it, it's a little late.
Yeah, it is a little late. And once again, I'm not going to discourage anyone from going. I think they should go. I think, if they want to go out there, but I'm going to be realistic and tell you, it isn't going to do a damn thing. And, it's the last time Henri had an event, and you were there, Diane, we couldn't even get the legislators to walk across the street to stand with you, and that's including the Republicans. That's including David Brock Smith,
including their favorite, David Brock Smith, did not walk across the street. So, what really needs to happen here is what we're doing. Exactly what we're doing. Change the party, change the look, and get people on one fighting team. Not have 20 fighting teams, have one fighting team. And this kind of stuff can't go on. We've got to get rid of the boards. The boards do all the difficult decisions. If Kotek went in and did this, she took 57% of our logging away, how soon would she be tarred and feathered?
Yeah.
Wouldn't take long, would it?
But
she puts the decision off to a board that is incapable of understanding the timber industry. The only person that has any interest whatsoever in the timber industry owns some acreage that if a tree falls, they'll turn it into furniture. Now, what does that have to do with the most important industry in the state of Oregon?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. We need to chop down some more of those trees, and we need to let people work and get back to work. And I'll have Dr. Bob Zyback on. I'm hoping to get him back on Wednesday. And I had a lady who was on last week. She was a little bit too environmentally friendly for me, but at least she was still willing to talk about doing some harvest of the trees. At least she was talking about that, which is more than what the BLM, the Department of Interior, is doing right now. And so there was just a report put out that said that disease, fire, especially fire, and insects were the major reason for the downfall of old growth, and that logging didn't even make the scale. Logging is because they don't log old growth trees, a lot of them, because they're just too damn big. And the fact is they can't really define what an old growth tree is. Some say it's 80 years. Some say it's 120. The lady I had on the show said 180. So what's an old growth tree? Right. Has to be older than me, I would think.
And older than me too.
Right.
Maybe older than Marty. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't counted my rings yet, so I don't know how old I am. And I'm not going to let anybody drill a tap into me to count my rings and tell me how old I am. So,
okay, so heading on, we were just talking about housing, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. Welcome to Oregon. Free 1 year rent for visitors, but not just any visitors, for you illegal aliens who broke the law by coming to the country in the first place. And this is the Oregonian reports that this bill, HB 4159, may get a last-minute surprise push during the final days of the session, which ends in March 10th. Thank God. Taxpayers are currently overwhelmed helping people who are migrating into Oregon from other nations or just sneaking over the border illegally. But if the state of Oregon puts out a 1 year free rent program, the news will spread like lightning and cause people to move here like nobody's business. And they've already tried this in Portland, and they already had to change it.
What a disaster. What an absolute disaster. You know, this is why we need to change our state government. This is why all the non-affiliated voters, you need to become Republican, and you need to get the Democrats out of office. This cannot go on.
No, this is Marty, 1 year free. I'll tell people you're here illegally. I think we can do this for you.
Yeah, well, I was kind of wondering. I mean, all these free benefits for illegals. Where do I go to sign up to say I'm illegal? Do I just like lose my driver's license and go, "Whoops, I guess I'm illegal now"? Give me some free
great
stuff.
voice, though. You have too good a voice. You have to act like you don't really have a great voice. I think
you need to smoke some crack and drink some whiskey. Damn it!
You have to black out a tooth.
Yeah, gonna have to go get me some. Gonna have to go get me some hookers and blow and stuff so I live up to the standards. Yeah, there's the issue.
Now, see, like that, Marty, I'd give you $1,000 a month. Sure.
Yeah, just give me $1. That's how I'm only asking for $1.
Yeah, go roll in some poison ivy and it'll be perfect. You'll just be perfect because you'll have sores all over your body. And just let us know. We'll sign a note for you.
We'll film it.
I need a legislator's note that says I'm illegal. There we go. That's what I need.
Hey, hell, don't.
Then he'll listen to me.
Yeah, and they'll do it. That's the scary part. They'll do it. So we've gone. And by the way, Ashley Hicks. I know we're big fans of Ashley Hicks. She's running in the 1st district. She's listening from Roseburg right now. So everyone say hi. Hi to Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley. Woohoo.
Where's the radio ads? We want to hear them.
Yeah, Ashley, I got to call you. We're going to do some radio ads. You got to do some radio ads because you get some free radio ads. And any way that I can screw over KWRO and Bicoastal Media, I'm all in. And you deserve to have those radio ads that they gave to David Brock Smith for free. So
I sent her a text on Telegram and said, if you want some ads done, let us know because we can get them. We can get them on KWRO and it won't cost you nothing.
I love that.
Of them. I mean, almost 300 minutes. This is phenomenal. I mean, that's what David Brock Smith took to try to sell his story.
I was looking at that the other day going, it was like,
I don't like windmills. And
92 3-minute screeds. And I'm like, that's almost 300 minutes. That's almost 5 hours of airtime. And I'm like going, if we break it up into 30-second spots or 1-minute spots, think of all the ads. And it's, one of the things about the rules, the FCC rules, is that they have to give you that rate for the 45 days before the election. So it doesn't really kick in until, let's see, like April 6th or so. So that means we have plenty of time to get these ads put together, produced, make them sound good, and just carpet bomb KWRO with ads for free.
Let's be sure that we include Paul Romero.
Oh, yeah. I sent him a text as well.
And is anybody else running? Can we get anybody else to run? Let's get them too.
We'll just all sign up. We'll all sign up. And then, we got just a few days left. We'll all sign up, and then we'll go get our free commercials. I'd love to see Mike Wilson's face, the owner of Bicoastal Media, when I show up and say, Mike, I'm now I'm a candidate in District 1, and you gave Brock Smith that huge commercial. I don't know why, because you didn't seem to think his opinion matter, but you gave them this big long commercial, and I want mine too. Yeah, because you know what my commercial would be. Mike Wilson is a dirtbag, so.
Yeah. No, I've come up with a couple of commercials that, there's absolutely no way we can put them on the air, but I'm certainly entertained by them. So, one of them was like, why do evil people always have 3 names? And it'd be like, Mark David Chapman, blah, 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 David Brock Smith.
Yep. I agree with you. Hey guys, it's been a wonderful 2 hours and 24 minutes. It just seems like we just started. This has really been good. I've enjoyed the conversation. Marty, and Diane, but Marty first, before I get you out of here, is there anything you would like to say?
No, I mean, I agree with Rod with a D. I actually thought of changing my name to Rock with a C, R-O-C, just to make it more confusing. So
I like
it. So we'd have a Rob, a Rod, and a Rock. But anyway, that aside, I really would like to thank Rod for coming on and explaining some of that stuff, because, sometimes when you text back and forth, you send emails back and forth, some of the translations are based on how you read an email. And when you get somebody actually saying it, and you can see, you can see what they're saying and how they're saying it, it imparts a lot more information. So I'm like, I was glad that he came on and explained a few things, because I was just like a little annoyed by the fact that we couldn't get some of these on this ballot. And yeah, I know it's not over, but it's always one of those, I really wish this would have gone through. And, and I think the fact that we had so many, and they had such a good organization, I found it really interesting that, it must be a paid organization that with less than 24 hours notice, they can get like 60, 70 people in a room.
And they were, I gave them credit when I got up to speak, because I thought they deserved it. And it gave me a chance to give a shot at Rod Schilling, because I thought he deserved it for not having people there. But the thing is as I told Rod Taylor when we were speaking, is it's important that we are able to utilize everything in the government's or the Board of Commissioners toolbox. And advisory questions don't cost us a damn thing, so why not use it? And I'm glad at least one of the commissioners, and Bob's listening too, John, I don't know how well, but at least they're listening somewhat, because they are trying to accommodate us.
Yeah, I mean, and Bob had that big meeting at the Sawdust about BOEM stuff, and I was completely surprised by the fact that, a bunch of people showed up, but everybody was against the windmills. And even a lot of the people that we would consider people that always will have a differing opinion about whatever we say, no matter what we say, they're always going to be contrary. And they were actually agreeing with us. And I'm like, okay, I must have gotten hit by a bus out front, because this just does not happen in real life.
It's a cold day when Mary Jedry and Rod Taylor agree on anything.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I thought, wow, man, I'm probably going to get hit by lightning. I don't know if I want to leave the building. Well, thanks, Marty, for being on. Diane, you got anything to say before I get you out of here?
No, I just look forward to working with you more in the future. In the next couple of weeks, we've spent a lot of time together. And Marty, I enjoy you every second. Come home.
Yeah, I should be coming back in the next week or a couple of weeks anyway. I want to make it back before April. So right now we're just kind of working on timetables and stuff. And I
say hi to Mrs. Marty.
I will say hello to Mrs. Marty. She can hear me through the door. So. And she just yelled back, "Say hi to Diane."
Nah. Well, thank you guys for coming on. We'll get you back on here soon, okay?
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right. And, it's always good to have good friends, and it's even better when you have good friends that agree with you on a lot of different issues, because then you can get them involved with some of the things you're doing. And I'm sure you have friends. I'm sure you have friends, some of you, I'm sure. And if you do, you may want to start thinking about getting registered to vote if you're not registered. And if you're not registered as a Republican, you might want to get registered as a Republican. And if you're willing to go that far, you might want to consider becoming a PCP. Now, you have to be a Republican for 180 days before the election to be a PCP, which is a precinct committee person. And the reason that's important is that at some point in time, we're going to have to get rid of the shill. Rod Schilling, the shill, has to go. He has dragged the local party right down the tubes, and it's time that we clean house. And I can say that because I'm a registered Republican now, but it's time we clean house and get him out of there because, not good things are happening, not good things, and we should have a lot of good things. And like I said, with that meeting, with the four advisory questions, we should have had a Republican presence, and the Republican Party should have been on top of that. And they were AWOL, which is disgusting because we have majority Republicans for the two major parties. I mean, non-affiliated voters make up the majority of the voter roll, but for parties, Republicans still outnumber the Democrats. And so we should have had a huge presence at that meeting to convince the commissioners to put those advisory questions on the ballot because it doesn't cost us a damn thing. Let's see, we got a couple of meetings coming up. Let's see, we've got a town hall meeting. City of Coos Bay is having a town hall meeting in a couple of days on March 6th, and they're going to be talking about the move that they're making with the Devereaux Center. So join the community conversation. I love how they always try to make it about love and peace and, hey, man, it's a community. We all live in a commune, and that's why we should all give money to the poor. Homeless all out of love. If you don't love these druggy, derelict dirtbags, well then, you're the problem. You're the problem, man. Well, I'm not the problem. The problem are these derelicts of society who refuse to clean themselves up and get off the drugs. And you know what? I'm a former drug user, and I can tell you it's been almost over 2 decades now since I've used hard drugs. It's been a long time, and I can tell you right now, yeah, it's hard to give up drugs. It's not the easiest thing, but the first thing you got to do is decide that you want to give up drugs. And that's not going to happen for any druggie out there until they realize it's their choice. I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about, it's in my genes, man. I'm genetically predisposed to using drugs. No, you're not. Whatever doctor told you that is full of crap. You are just a weak-minded person that needs to get off the crack pipe. You need to get off the meth pipe. You need to stop shoving that shit up your nose. And you're the one who's responsible for your life. So when you go to this City of Coos Bay town hall meeting, when you go there, let them know that. Let them know that. I'm willing to bet anyone of my age who grew up in the 80s, probably the majority of us did drugs. I wasn't the only guy at the party snorting cocaine off the glass tables. No, I wasn't the only guy doing that. I'm sure there were some of you doing that. So you need to go to these town hall meetings and you let them know that drug use is just an excuse. Drug use is just an excuse, and that they need to stop enabling these buttheads, okay? These derelict druggies of society. So this is happening this Wednesday, March 6th, 2024, at the Egyptian Theater, and that's on Broadway. Is that on Broadway? Yeah, it's Egyptian Theater, Highway 101 in Coos Bay, right there in downtown Coos Bay at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. So definitely go check it out. Then, a little bit later in the month, they're having the Coos Bay Livability Committee. Once again, another committee. The livability. Yeah, I don't know who the hell made that up, but they need to be smacked upside the head. The Livability Committee is happening on Thursday, March 28th, 2024 at noon. And I guess these 3 city councilors, if you're looking at the picture at the bottom, you got Stephanie Kilmer, you got Drew Farmer, you got Sarah Stevens. Well, I guess they're going to tell you how to live, man. They're going to tell you how cool it is because they're city councilors and they're so much better than you do. You're all morons. So you got to go to the Livability Committee and find out what the hell's going on. Yeah, I know. I'm just as much annoyed by them as you are, but you have to know about these meetings because this is what happens. They create a committee. They put a bunch of their friends on this committee who put dumb names on it, like the livability committee. Then they get a whole bunch of their friends to show up for the meeting. And then from that, the city council will take a consensus, like they did an advisory vote. And then they will tell you what they're going to spend and waste your money on. It's just absolutely ridiculous how they go there. And want to remind you that tomorrow, the Board of Commissioners meeting and the Owens building. This is 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, March 5th. I highly recommend you get out to your commissioners meeting. It's very important to find out what's going on. You can't really criticize them unless you know what's going on. And I know most of you are probably working, but if you do get a chance, head over there to the Owens building tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. And the Coos Bay City Council meeting happening in City Hall tomorrow night at 6 p.m. That's happening tomorrow night, Tuesday, March 5th. And once again, you can't complain unless you know what's going on at your city council meeting. Don't act surprised if you don't know, because these meetings are where all this stuff comes out. In fact, the work sessions are almost better than the meetings, because in the work sessions is where they plan their strategy, and that's where you got to get them. So that's just a little bit of news for you. I think it's important that we know what's going on in the community so we can take care of it, so we can take care of this business. And, those are the things that I think are really important for people to know. Let's see, what else do I got here? Let's see. Let's go ahead and do my sponsors. If you watch the show, we didn't have a winner for Where's 3H Tree Service. Sometimes that happens. So we'll be playing next week. Where's 3H Tree Service? No winner. Can you believe that? Nobody won today. That's okay. We'll play next week. So 3H Tree Service, you can reach them at 541-294-1800. They're a bunch of great guys. They can remove those trees with surgical precision. So I highly recommend 3H Tree Service for all your tree removal or tree pruning that you might need to get done. Tom and Gigs, I don't know what happened to Tim. Tim was supposed to be on at 4 o'clock. He didn't show up. I wonder. I'll have to go check it out and see what happened to Tim. But Tim over at Tom and Gigs can take care of all your automotive needs. If you need any of those RC cars, those remote control cars. I think he's even got a really cool boat over there. I always wanted to get a bunch of those RC boats and create my own armada. Yep, I was going to create my own armada and take over Mingus Park. It was just, maybe a weird, sick fantasy of mine. But I highly recommend Tom and Gigs for all your automotive needs. And, of course, Oregon Firearms Federation. I'm going to go see Kevin Sterrett, who's the director of Oregon Firearms Federation, tomorrow. I got a meeting with him. Lots of big things happening. I promise you, lots of big things are happening. But if you want to join a no-compromise firearms groups, no compromise on your Second Amendment, Oregon Firearms is the place to go check out. If you need to go and practice with those firearms, I highly recommend the Abandoned Gun Club. Now, if you don't know where to go get the Abandoned Gun Club, then you need to go to the abandonedgunclub.org website. And it's right down on 42. I'm forgetting the street they're on, but they will have directions at the abandonedgunclub.org where you can go to the gun club. It's for handguns and it's for trap shooting. They have a 5-stand trap shoot. It's really cool. The traps come out of 5 different ways, and you get to blow them out of the sky with your gun, pretending like it's Antifa. It's kind of neat. I think I'm going to start going there early and write Antifa on all the traps that I'll be shooting at some point in time. They don't have a rifle range, but they do have a pistol range, which is really cool. It has a cover over it, so you can go there even when it's raining and practice shooting your pistol. I would highly recommend it. New members are always welcome, and it doesn't cost a whole lot. I think it's $100 for a year to go to register the family, the immediate family, and I think it's $5 for the pistol range, and I think it's also $5 to do the trap shooting when you're there for each round. So that's that's interesting if you enjoy shooting off your shotguns or want to practice your pistols. And if you do want to go and practice with your rifle, I suggest the Tioga Sports Park Association at the Tioga Sports Park, which is right next to the dump. Yeah, it's right next to the dump, and they are doing a lot of things out there. Their premier sports shooting and firearms training park. They have a shooting range for handguns, and they have a shooting range for your rifles. And they need people to show up and help out. If you want to volunteer, you can go to Tioga Sports Park and check them out, because these guys, they're really cool, and they've been very beneficial to a lot of people who've had those firearm needs, the need to explode. If you have a need to explode, well, that's the place to go. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's always a great pleasure. I want to thank Rod Taylor, Commissioner Rod Taylor, for calling in. I want to thank Diane, Rich, and Marty for being guests. Hopefully, coming up soon, we're going to get Dr. Bob Zyback back on here and talk about what's going on at the Elliott State Forest. And so there's a lot of things going on. Like we were talking about at the beginning of this hour, or the beginning of the last hour, it's been 2 hours and 40 minutes. Damn, it's been a long time. But like we were talking about then, we've got a whole lot of things coming up. We are going to be creating a couple of new PACs, a super PAC. We've got an LLC where we're going to be able to help people, candidates, people who want to be candidates, who don't have the money. You know, that's always the problem with a lot of these candidates. And the Republican Party, they're just not doing their share. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to fill that void. And all this is happening. Why? Because we're tired of the bullshit. If you're tired of the bullshit, you pay attention and keep staying tuned to this show every week, every Monday at 3 o'clock. And you can go to my website, robtaylorreport.com, and sign up for my newsletter. It's right there on the homepage. Sign up for my newsletter, because I put a lot of things in there that I might not cover on the show, and you'll get a reminder every Monday about 3 or 4 hours before I go on air. You'll get a reminder reminding you that I'm going on air. And if you go to YouTube or Rumble, please subscribe and like my page. I'd really appreciate it. I'd really appreciate it. It means so much to me if you do that. And I want to thank you all for coming on, or tuning in. I'm the one who came on. I don't know. Maybe I'm on something. I don't know. But I want to tell you once again, I appreciate all of you, and thank you for all you're doing out there, because I know a lot of people out there, they do a lot of work. You're a lot of good volunteers. So keep that up. And so until the next time we see each other, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.